At this moment, looking at the floating island suspended right before his eyes, a surge of immense hope rose in Han Feng's heart. But right at that moment, a pack of hyenas was quietly approaching. From the sky, Bazooka let out a shrill cry. Han Feng immediately went on alert, quickly ordering everyone to prepare for battle. At the same time, the whole team moved around the salt lake. Everyone received the order and immediately complied. Everyone gripped their weapons tightly, ready to fight. More than 20 hyenas were still trailing closely behind, staring intently at the group, ready to attack at any moment. However, they were also a bit apprehensive, because until now, whenever they attacked humans, the eagles on the floating island would intervene. Han Feng kept an eye on the hyenas' movements, while asking the guide about the surrounding situation. Besides the species, are there any other carnivores here? Why haven't I seen any? The guide replied, besides these hyenas, there is also a pack of long-toothed beasts, about 4 or 5 of them. It's just that they aren't here today. Dolly asked curiously, are the long-toothed beasts the tigers with very long teeth, short tails, and yellow fur? The guide said solemnly, that's exactly what they are. They can kill a person with just one slap. Even the eagles in the sky might not be able to beat them. Hearing this, Han Feng decided, we must deal with this pack of hyenas first, then carefully explore the surrounding ground. He seized the opportunity, shooting an arrow toward the pack of hyenas in the distance. The distance between the two sides was about 60 meters. His arrow hit the head of a large hyena. Unfortunately, perhaps because the hyena's skull was too hard, or because the angle wasn't right, the bronze arrow only grazed the skull, embedding itself in the hyena's scalp. The injured hyena went mad with pain. Baring its fangs and claws, it lunged straight toward where he was riding his mount. Fortunately, Bazooka was sharp-eyed and quick-handed. It dove down from the sky, using its talons to knock the hyena down, leaving several deep gashes on its neck. Seeing this, Han Feng quickly knocked another arrow. This time, he aimed straight at the hyena's front torso, the position of the chest cavity, where the heart and lungs are. With a swishing sound, the arrow tore through the wind, plunging straight into the hyena's chest. The hyena collapsed immediately. Motionless, he urged Hushan to keep moving counterclockwise around the area near the hyena pack, while keeping a distance of about 100 meters, to keep the hyenas within shooting range. Immediately after, 4 other arrows flew into the hyena pack, causing 2 hyenas to collapse on the spot. Surprisingly, the hyena pack turned to fight over the carcasses of the 3 hyenas that had just been shot down. They frantically bit and tore at each other. 5 arrows from a distance of 80 to 90 meters flew into the hyena pack again. This time, 2 more hyenas were taken down. The hyena pack fought even more frantically over the corpses. Seeing this, Han Feng decisively ordered an attack. This is the perfect opportunity. Right at this moment, Bazooka also dove down from the sky, snatching a hyena with its talons, flying toward the floating island, and dropping the hyena in front of the eagle leader. Rue looked curiously at the hyena carcass full of arrows. In the past, those who came to get salt were all under Bazooka's protection. They would hurriedly take the salt and leave. Fights with wild beasts rarely happened. But these people were different. Not only did they not take salt, but they also walked around the lake. Moreover, their weapons were unlike anything Rue had ever seen before. Thinking of this, Rue suddenly called Bazooka, telling to fly down and take a look. Bazooka let out a cry. Rue leaped up, holding tightly onto Bazooka's legs with both hands. Just like that, 1 man and 1 bird flew down from the floating island. By the salt lake, Han Feng was still leading his people around, occasionally shooting arrows. Suddenly, a giant shadow swept across the ground. Han Feng looked up, momentarily stunned. He saw a giant eagle, carrying a person, hovering in midair. Rue, the person clinging to the eagle's claws, was equally surprised. Initially, Rue only intended to have Bazooka fly down to check the situation. But he didn't expect to see this scene. These people were riding beasts, using strange weapons to hunt the hyena pack. The hyena pack, after being attacked continuously, no longer fought over their companions' carcasses, but began to flee in panic. Seeing this, Han Feng led his people to give chase. However, because they were riding deer, archery was quite difficult. Everyone missed quite a few shots, wasting quite a few arrows. Seeing the hyena pack about to escape, Han Feng decisively ordered to stop the pursuit, turning around to lead the team back to the salt lake. On the way, he didn't forget to pick up the arrows that had missed. Before going far, they met Rue by the salt lake. At this moment, he was also picking up arrows. Han Feng signaled and asked, "Is that eagle yours?" Rue also curiously held an arrow in his hand and asked him, "Are these short spears yours?" Han Feng nodded and said, "Return those arrows to me." Rue was a bit reluctant, but handed the arrows to Han Feng. "Weapons as good as these I have never seen before. Can you give me one as a keepsake?" Han Feng looked at Rue, then looked around, thinking to himself, "There's no one else here. This guy must be someone from the floating island." He considered it for a moment, then said, "All right, I'll give you one." Rue received the arrow, happily returning the remaining feathered arrows to Han Feng. He asked, "Your weapons fly so fast and far because they have feathers tied to them, right?" "My bazooka can also fly fast and far because it has feathers." Han Feng heard him speak. Repeating the word bazooka, Rue explained, "This is Bazooka, the best eagle of our tribe." Han Feng was surprised. "Do you live on that floating island?" "That's right. What about you? Aren't you here to get salt? Why are you hunting? The meat of those ground wolves doesn't taste good." Han Feng pointed at the floating island. "We aren't here to hunt, nor are we here to get salt. It's just that I heard there was a flying island here, so I came specifically to take a look." Rue heard this and immediately became alert. "That island is our territory. You cannot." Han Feng hurriedly interrupted. No, you misunderstood. I just want to find a type of stone that can make that island fly. It has nothing to do with you guys." Rue heard this and was stunned. The people of the Eagle tribe have lived on the floating island for generations, but they never knew why the island could float in the air. They only considered it the dwelling place of the gods. Now Han Feng said he wanted to find the stone that made the island fly. This made Rue extremely curious. Seeing this, Han Feng led everyone to search the surroundings. Dali and the others also rode their deer, following closely behind. Leader Rue of the Eagle tribe let Bazooka fly up to the sky to scout, while he stuck close to Han Feng, not leaving his side. Before long, Han Feng discovered something strange. On a large rock, right by the lake, he carefully scraped off the layer of salt on the rock surface. A fish skeleton with a structure like a sawfish appeared clearly. This is definitely a fossil, but for a deep-sea creature to appear on land, he calculated silently. Perhaps in the past, this land was once under the sea, then it was uplifted. That's why the soil here has so much salt. This explains the formation of the salt lake. But the iron mine I'm looking for is still nowhere to be seen. Rue stood by the side, seeing Han Feng staring at the rock, and asked curiously, "Is it this rock that made the island fly?" Han Feng shook his head. "No, it's not this rock." He stood up again, continuing the search. The main component of magnetite ore is iron, 2, 3, oxide. After weathering, wind, frost, and air erosion, it will turn into iron 3 oxide, also known as rust, which has a dark red color. The ground here has the red color of iron. He affirmed, there is iron ore here, but it's definitely not magnetite, because over millions of years, even if there was magnetite, the surface layer would have definitely turned into rust. We have to dig deep down. Anfeng chose I spot, where the ground was dark red. He used a dagger and a spear to start digging. The ground was very hard, making digging very difficult. He cursed silently in his mind. Wait until I smelled iron. I must make an entrenching shovel immediately. The military shovel from his previous life was truly too convenient. Dolly saw him start digging, so he grabbed a bronze axe to help out. The two of them toiled, digging laboriously. Finally, it dug a pit, 1 meter in diameter. The red soil on the surface had been dug away, revealing a layer of white rock with a yellowish tint. No veins, nor any glassy luster. Han Feng knew that white rock with a glassy luster near Salt Lake is basically natural soda stone. But this wasn't it. This is saltpeter rock, symbiotic with iron ore. He picked up a pale yellow stone, dug a small hole by the lake, scooped some lake water into it, then dropped the stone in. The stone quickly dissolved. A white mist rose from the water surface. Around the small hole, a layer of white frost also appeared. This is the cooling principle of saltpeter. Although he didn't find magnetite, Discovering saltpeter made Han Feng very happy. This means that, later, there will be raw materials to make explosives. His tribe won't have to worry about a lack of raw materials for explosives anymore. He can use explosives to do many more things. Dolly stood by the side, asking in confusion, "Leader, this stone surely isn't the iron ore you talked about, right? Why did it dissolve as soon as it was put in water? Moreover, the water became so cold." Han Feng explained it. "This is an iron ore. This is saltpeter. You've seen it before. It's that white powder that in early spring, I told the women to extract from the soil. However, this thing is also very useful. Next time we come, we can dig some more. Remember this location well. Next time, I'll let you lead the team." Dolly heard that he would lead the team and immediately became serious, carefully observing the surroundings, as if wanting to carve this place into his mind. Having identified it as saltpeter, the two continued digging the pit. Rue watched curiously from the side. He had never seen this magical stone before. They dug for a while longer. The pit was over a meter deep, but it was still saltpeter. The reserve seemed very large. Han Feng thought they couldn't keep digging. They had to change spots. The two grabbed their weapons, walked to a spot a few hundred meters from a salt lake, found a place with red soil and sand on the surface, and started digging again. The ground here was very hard. Digging was much harder than before, but the effort paid off. This time, Dolly used his axe to break a rock. That rock was the size of a fist, grayish in color. It had a dull gray color. Han Feng hurriedly wiped off the layer of dust and sand. He picked it up and weighed it in his hand. It felt heavier than ordinary granite. The cross-section of the rock showed crystalline traces. He squinted under the sunlight. It shimmered with a faint metallic luster. It looked as if it were covered in a layer of gray sand. Han Feng exclaimed excitedly, "This is it. This is the stone. This is a lodestone." Dolly looked a bit puzzled. "Is this really iron ore? I feel like it isn't even as hard as our bronze. I smashed it with my axe, and it broke immediately." "Chief, are you sure you aren't mistaken? Could it be some other kind of rock?" Rue, standing to the side, didn't believe it either. He said, "Just a small stone like this can make an entire island fly. Impossible." Han Feng patiently explained it. "This is it. You could break it because it is stone, so its hardness isn't high. The hard substance is actually the iron contained inside it. Didn't you see the metallic glint on the broken surface of this stone?" Saying that, he handed the ore to Li to examine closely. Li observed it intently. Sure enough, it was just as he said. There was a metallic sheen on the cross-section of the stone. Just then, something strange happened. Li was about to hand the two halves of the stone back to him. His hand had just relaxed, when the two halves suddenly flipped over on their own, clamping tightly onto Li's hand. It made both Li and Rue jump in fright. Han Feng licked it. "Huh. Don't be afraid. It's not a living thing. This is the magnetism of the lodestone. Here, try flipping it over." Didn't the two halves refuse to fit together just now? Li did as he was told. He discovered that the two halves indeed could not fit together. There was an invisible force separating them in the middle. Even if he used force to press them together, the moment he relaxed slightly, the two halves would immediately spring apart. But if he flipped one half over, the two halves would attract and stick together on their own. Curious, Rue also took the stones to test them out. He was also captivated by this strange phenomenon. Han Feng said, "This very stone is what made the island float." Rue still didn't understand. Han Feng stood the two halves of the stone upright. Suppose this bottom half is the ground, and this top half is the floating island. Like this, doesn't it work? Next, he found a small tree branch, broke it into 4 segments, and stuck them around the bottom half of the stone. Then, he placed the other half on top of the 4 small sticks. That half of the stone didn't spring away, nor did it stick to the bottom half. It just hovered there, suspended between the 4 sticks. Li and Rue were so shocked their jaws dropped. They couldn't believe their eyes. Rue suddenly felt that this man was no ordinary person. He asked suspiciously, "Are you a mage? Did you find this stone to make other things fly?" "No, I'm just like you. I'm a chief. Our tribe is called a Han tribe. We have many people. We came here to find this type of stone for metallurgy. Once we have metal, we can craft weapons, tools, and ornaments." Hearing this, Rue secretly rejoiced in his heart. "Chief Han, Then what method do you use to turn this stone into metal? Han Feng waved his hand. No, I cannot tell you that. And even if I told you, you wouldn't be able to learn it. Metallurgy is very difficult. I only teach it to people within my own tribe. Rue was a bit anxious to seize this opportunity for his tribe. Suddenly, he had an idea. Chief Han, I can use white salt to trade. As long as you agree to teach us how to smelt metal, I can have my tribe mine salt. And ask the Ba Chu brothers to bring it to you. Han Feng waved his hand again. No, I don't need it. Our Han tribe does not lack salt. We have other places to get salt. And it's much better than what is here. Saying that, he took out a small leather pouch filled with salt. He opened it for Rue to see. Pure white salt. Without a single impurity. Seeing this, Rue immediately. Is that okay? Hearing this, Dolly stood by the side, looking at Bazooka soaring in the sky, drooling. Leader, that eagle may not be useful, but it looks very majestic. Why don't we exchange for one? Dolly said to Han Feng. He glared at him sideways. You know it's useless. So what do we need it for? Rue saw the two speaking like that, and hurriedly said, the eagles of our tribe are not easily given to others, but once given, it means we are friends, brothers. Moreover, our eagles are very formidable. They can help humans hunt. An eagle can live for decades. It can bring back prey every day. Do you know how many people one eagle can feed? How can you say it's useless? Han Feng heard this, thinking to himself, if eagles could be trained into carrier pigeons, it would be very useful for the tribe. However, currently in the Han tribe, the number of literate people is not high. I'm afraid it's hard to implement. Moreover, besides eagles, the eagle tribe has nothing valuable. This ally, having them is fine, not having them doesn't matter. Therefore, Han Feng still rejected Rue's offer. I still can't tell you. Besides, even if I tell you, it's useless. The method of metallurgy is very difficult. I'll tell you this much. The method is to put that stone in a fire. Burn it to separate the metal from the stone. But it requires a lot of firewood. Even if you chop down all the trees on the floating island, you won't be able to smelt any metal. Rue heard this and was a bit disappointed. So that's how it is. Only those living on the mainland can smelt metal. Han Feng nodded. That's right. Although your floating island is quite large, resources are limited after all. If your eagle tribe wants to grow strong, you still have to leave the floating island and live on the ground. Rue heard him speak and felt a bit conflicted. He thought of the tribe's drinking water problem. Daily water usage relied on melted snow in winter, stored rainwater, and water condensed from steam rising from the salt lake. Water sources were very scarce. It truly restricted development. He had long thought about leading his tribesmen off the floating island, but worried they wouldn't adapt and couldn't bear to leave the flock of eagles. Hesitating for a moment, Rue said to Han Feng, Leader Han, can I invite you to our tribe as a guest? Han Feng politely refused. No, I've been away from the tribe for a while. My tribesmen are waiting for me to return. Rue was a bit disappointed, but still didn't give up. Then when do you plan to leave? Will you come here again later? Han Feng replied. Of course we will come. Later, I will send people here to mine stone. They will return here soon. As for us, we will leave tomorrow morning. Rue heard this, and his eyes immediately lit up. Tomorrow, can I go with you to visit the Han tribe? I want to learn how to live on the ground. Hearing this, Han Feng secretly rejoiced. Isn't this a good opportunity to win over the eagle tribe? At this moment, Rue told him. Tomorrow he wanted to go with him to visit the Han tribe, to learn how to live on the ground. Hearing this, Han Feng secretly rejoiced. This might be a good opportunity to win over the eagle tribe. So, he decisively agreed. Rue received his consent and happily called Bazooka, telling it to take him up to the floating island. He had to go back to instruct his tribesmen and arrange work for the few days he would be away. As for Han Feng's group, they weren't idle either. They skinned the hyenas, using hemp rope to sew them into leather bags. After that, they went to the lakeside again, found places with saltpeter, and started digging. This time, they brought some saltpeter back first. This was to solve the shortage of nitric acid raw materials for the Han tribe. As for the iron ore, they only brought back a few chunks. Returning to the matter of Rue, after going up to the floating island, he recounted his meeting with Han Feng in detail to his clansmen. He told them everything. He even took out the bronze arrowhead Han Feng had given him to show them. The people of the tribe were astonished. They hadn't expected the tribe on the ground to be so powerful. Finally, Rue expressed his intention to visit the Han tribe. Although the clansmen were a bit hesitant, they did not object. Early the next morning, Han Feng led Rue along the riverbank to start their journey. At the same time, the cavalry he had sent earlier to deliver Raimi's seeds had caught up with the returning army. They brought news that he had gone to explore a new mine and simultaneously conveyed new orders, telling everyone that upon their return, they must quickly plant the Raimi seeds. By this time, they had reached the deep mountain area of the Han tribe. Meanwhile, to the east of the Han tribe's river, the Lu tribe sent 10 people to the Han tribe. They wanted to find the clansmen who had been missing for several days. It turned out that Chief Mao Lu of the Lu tribe, last time, when he led people to the Han tribe for trade, had uttered threats. As a result, he was captured by the Shu. This time, those who came did not escape that fate either. Back at the Han tribe, the Great Western Expedition Army returned in victory. They had killed 17 ape-men, captured over 200 slaves, brought back new crops, and subdued another small tribe. Everyone in the tribe was jubilant. The women were overjoyed because their men had all returned safely. Moreover, the tribe had protected its territory. The Shu was also very happy. Before this, he had been worried that facing so many ape-men this time would be dangerous. Now, the weight in his heart had finally been lifted. More than 30 people from the Lu tribe were captured. They were tied up and starved, given only one bowl of water each day. This was something the Shu had learned from Han Feng. Shaman Lu was one of the leaders of the Lu tribe. He knew Mao Lu's ambition well. This time, he was very worried. He had waited for 2 whole days, but he still didn't see the clansmen who went to search for the others' return. Instead, he encountered a group coming from the south. It was the squad led by Yu Fu. They had a cart, pulled by 2 oxen. There was also a herd of black and white spotted pigs, looking very strange. Yu Fu and his team were intercepted by Shaman Lu. Shaman Lu thought they were people from the Han tribe, so he asked if they had seen the Lu tribe's clansmen. Yu Fu said they were just friends of the Han tribe, and that these things were obtained through trade. Shaman Lu asked Yu Fu for help to find the whereabouts of his clansmen. Initially, Yu Fu demanded 5 animal skins before agreeing to help. After Shaman Lu gave 2 skins up front as a deposit, he finally accepted. Then, Yu Fu led his team and continued toward the Han tribe. The next day, the tribe leaders decided to resume daily work, focusing on farming and construction. They left 20 or 30 people to guard the prisoners. Shi Tu led a hunting team of 20 people to hunt and patrol. At the same time, they went to the border tribes to announce the victory and lift the state of alarm. Over 100 people in the logging team went to the western forest to cut down trees. The women went out to gather food and building materials. The construction team temporarily paused house building and started plowing the fields, sowing the second crop of wet rice. On the 3rd day after the army returned, everyone followed the river and arrived at the dark forest. This made Han Feng very happy, because this river and the river at the Han tribe were connected. In the future, travel would be much more convenient. It would only take 1 more day of walking to get back to the Han tribe. Also on the afternoon of that same day, Yu Fu, who had been exploring for 2 months, led 56 spotted pigs to the wooden bridge east of the Han tribe. But they encountered a difficulty. Because the wooden bridge had no railings, the pigs could easily fall off. Fortunately, a fishing team composed of women helped out, and they managed to drive the herd of pigs across the river. The Shu heard the news and hurriedly ran to the bridge. Seeing Yu Fu bring back so many spotted pigs, he was very happy. Yu Fu said these spotted pigs were exchanged from the Lu tribe using white salt and pottery. There were also 10 young women specialized in raising pigs. In addition, he brought back seeds of 2 types of crops. One was a vine with large flowers. One was a plant with large leaves and round tubers. That is, on the way, they had used up the plants with large leaves and round tubers to feed the pigs. Now only the seeds remained. Dashu asked Yu Fu what reward he wanted. Yu Fu said he wanted a house in the Han tribe. He wanted to let his tribesmen stay here through the winter, but didn't want to join the Han tribe. Dashu said he couldn't decide and had to wait for Han Feng to return to figure it out. Yu Fu nodded, telling his tribesmen to stay temporarily while he went to find the elder, to visit the Han tribe's houses. The next morning, around 8 or 9 o'clock, Everyone finally saw the wooden bridge of the Han tribe. Robao and Huishan roared excitedly. Finally home. The women of his tribe heard the mammoth's cry and knew the leader had returned. Everyone was very happy. Bazooka also soared in the sky, finally landing on a roof beam of a house that hadn't been roofed yet. Tsubing rode Bonbon running over, followed by several grown wolf pups. They looked at Bazooka and barked woof woof. Seeing Tsubing, Han Feng rubbed the boy's head, asking if he missed him. Tsubing looked up and asked, "Leader, did you find a salt mine again? Is it like our copper mine before?" Han Feng smiled and replied, "Not the same. This time, what we found is even more powerful than copper." Saying that, he took out 2 small magnets and gave them to Tsubing. Tsubing had never seen such a magical thing before, so he happily ran off to show it off. Next, the high-ranking leaders of the tribe also came to welcome him one by one and reported on the work situation. Shaodai also came to see how he was. After seeing he was fine, she led Robao and Huishan back. This time, Dali and Leader Ray of the Eagle tribe were also allowed to attend the meeting. The elder was the first to speak. "Leader, the first crop of wet rice of our tribe has been harvested, dried, and bagged carefully, but I haven't let the tribesmen eat it yet, nor have we planted the new crop. We don't know how much to plant. However, we have had the tribesmen plow all the fields that were just harvested. We can plant the second crop of wet rice at any time. Currently, the tribesmen are reclaiming wasteland in the grassland west of the central area. More than 10 acres have been reclaimed. I don't know if it's enough." The rat shaman also added, "Farming must be the top priority. Other things can be put aside for later." Han Feng immediately arranged. "You two go arrange for the tribesmen to soak the rice seeds later. Taking 17 times the amount of seeds used last time is about right. Submerge the seeds in a bucket of water. Scoop out and discard the seeds that float to the surface. Leave them in a cool place, behind the city wall. Remember, absolutely do not expose them to the sun." Big Rat continued, "Leader, on the way back, we didn't encounter any danger. It's just that the prisoners tried to escape a few times, but we caught them all. Now, I have arranged for warriors to take turns guarding the prisoners, still giving them 1 bowl of water a day and 1 meal every 3 days. Now they're so hungry they have no strength to resist. They do whatever they are told." Hearing this, he smiled, patting Big Rat's shoulder. "Well done. Those prisoners. Continue guarding them for now. In a few days, I will assign work for them." Dashu also began to report. "Leader, the day I returned, I happened to meet the Li tribe coming to trade oil plants. Leader Malu saw that the men of our tribe were all out, so he told the elder and the rat shaman that this time he wanted to exchange for our bronze items. The elder and the rat shaman didn't agree. That side threatened to burn down their oil tree forest, not letting us take oil seeds anymore. This made the elder and the rat shaman angry. Then I returned just in time to encounter this, so I killed him. The tribesmen he brought along were also captured by me. After that, the Li tribe sent 10 people to search, and they were also captured by me. Next, whether to fight or not. Please decide, leader." Han Feng heard this, his face darkening. "This is treating the Han tribe as if there's no one home. I wasn't home, and they dared to come to our door to cause trouble. You did the right thing in this matter. Since they dared to come and cause trouble, we must respond. Tomorrow, Big Rat, you lead 200 warriors to surround the Li tribe. Force them to surrender and join the Han tribe. If they don't agree, kill them. Also, bring the people bought from the Li tribe last year. Tell them to persuade surrender. When the time comes, if they still don't agree, don't blame me for not giving them a chance to survive. Big Rat, you personally handle this matter. Try your best to force them to surrender. Bring back as many people as possible." Dashu continued, "There's also good news. Yesterday, the Yu tribe returned from the east. They found a tribe that knows how to raise livestock, using our white salt and pottery. They exchanged for dozens of piglets. Although they can't be used for work, they can be raised for meat, and their skin can be used to make shoes. There are 50 of them. 6 are adults. Among them, for a pregnant sows. That guy Yufu also exchanged for 10 young women from that tribe, specialized in raising pigs. I have temporarily locked the pigs in the livestock pen. How to raise them still needs the leader to arrange. Right? That Yufu also brought back 2 types of crop seeds. One is a vine with large flowers, planted in pots. Heard it's food for pigs. The other is a plant with round tubers and large leaves. But Yufu said, They used them to feed the pigs on the way. Now only the seeds remain. Hearing this, Han Feng said happily, "This is truly good news. Later, I must personally go see those pigs. What about you, Fu? Where is he? Did you reward him with anything?" Dashi replied, "That side hasn't left yet. But early this morning, he led people to hunt on the east bank. Probably won't be back until evening. As for the reward, I haven't rewarded him anything yet. That Fu doesn't need white salt or pottery either. He said he wants our houses, but doesn't want to join the Han tribe. I couldn't agree, so I had to wait for the leader to return to decide." Hearing this, he was slightly surprised. If they don't join the Han tribe, he won't let them live here. However, let's wait until tonight to negotiate with him. The meeting ended. He led leader Rue of the Eagle tribe on a tour around the tribe. The prosperous scene, the richness of the Han tribe amazed Rue immensely. Looking at the jars, beautiful pots scattered everywhere. Almost everyone had them. There were even extras. Then the tools, bronze weapons seen everywhere. Then the carts of all kinds arranged neatly. There was also developed animal husbandry and agriculture. All of this made Rue unable to help but admire. When seeing the women in the tribe, skillfully using machines to weave cloth, Rue was even more astonished, his jaw dropping. It must be known that the Eagle tribe, until now, still stopped at using animal skins to make clothes and bags. Curious, he asked Han Feng, "Leader Han, can our tribe plant this type of wet rice?" Han Feng shook his head, patiently explaining, "Planting is of course possible, but planting wet rice requires a lot of fresh water. At your place, by the lake, is all salty soil, basically impossible to plant. To plant wet rice, you must find flat land, near a water source. It's just that such places are really hard to find. Look, the 2 rivers in our tribe were dug hole by everyone. It took a lot of effort." In the evening, Fu returned from hunting. He carried a fat deer in his hand, happily coming to find him, saying he wanted to have dinner together. While eating, Fu chewed the rice vigorously, while constantly praising, "This rice dish is truly rare, both delicious and filling. All right, I have something I want to discuss with you a bit. Our tribe lives here and there. Every time winter comes, we worry about having no place to stay. Look, can you let us stay here through the winter? Give us a few houses to live in." Hearing this, he smiled. "Fu, these houses were built by the tribesmen's hard work. I can't just give them to you, unless you join the Han tribe. That way, everyone works together. Housing matters will naturally be easy." Fu momentarily looked troubled. "Leader, I know you mean well, but the people of our tribe, all like adventure, not used to staying in one place forever." Han Feng thought for a moment and offered a plan. "How about this? If you join the tribe, I will send a separate team to go out with you. Your women and children can just stay in the tribe. That way it's both safe and convenient. Moreover, when you return, there's a stable place to rest. What do you think?" Fu heard him speak, feeling it made sense, but still needed to discuss carefully with his tribesmen. He would answer tomorrow. Seeing hope, he added, "In the next few days, I have an important mission. Must send people to the north, several days' journey away, to bring back some important things. If you decide to join, then hurry up. Otherwise, I will have to send my own tribesmen." Fu nodded seriously, promising to answer as soon as possible. Early the next morning, Big Rat gathered 200 warriors, preparing to go to the Li tribe. Han Feng stood solemnly in front of the army, speaking loudly, "Tribesmen, the Li tribe dared to provoke us before, and loudly threatened to burn down the oil tree forest we need so much. Their leader has paid the price for his arrogance. But the Li tribe, we must subjugate them. Those important resources must be firmly in our hands. Of course, I also don't want to see too many casualties. After all, most of the Li tribe's people are innocent. Therefore, your mission this time is to try to force the Li tribe to surrender, making them join our Han tribe. How many people you can bring back depends on your ability. I will be in the tribe, waiting for news of your victory." Big Rat nodded firmly, then led the army majestically on their way. Just after arranging things, Fu hurriedly ran over, saying happily, "Leader, I have discussed with the tribesmen. They all agreed to join the Han tribe." Hearing this, Han Feng happily patted Fu's shoulder. "Very good. From today, the tribe is the clan of the Han tribe. These 2 days, you lead the tribesmen to visit the tribe, see what everyone likes to do. In a few days, I will arrange specific work for you." Fu asked curiously, "Leader, can you reveal a little bit in advance? Of course. To the north of our Han tribe, there is a herd of horses, about 300 of them. They have very distinct colored stripes. If we can catch them, it will help the tribe a lot. Later, plowing fields and transportation will be much more convenient. After arranging for Yufu, he busied himself making leg irons for the prisoners. Making leg irons was not simple. There were a total of 9 parts, and the process was quite complicated. Fortunately, he had experience, so he quickly designed the manufacturing process and handed it over to the metallurgy group led by Dechuan. After 2 days and 2 nights of hard work, the metallurgy group finished making 100 sets of leg irons. Next, Han Feng had people bring the prisoners over and put the leg irons on them. These prisoners have been detained for a long time. Every day, they weren't fed enough, so they had no strength left. Now, wearing the heavy leg irons, they couldn't move even more. They could only obediently stay in one place, not daring to resist. As for Big Rat, after leading the army away, they marched very fast. Before long, they reached the Li tribe. They quickly surrounded the Li tribe. Big Rat sought out the Li shaman, seriously explaining the whole story, emphasizing that surrender was the only way. The Li shaman heard this, and his heart was momentarily in turmoil. Just then, the teenagers and young women who had been sold to the Han tribe began to persuade their relatives. They recounted in detail the good things in the Han tribe. Moreover, the tribesmen captured before were all safe and sound. As long as they surrendered now, everyone would be reunited soon. Later, they would enjoy a prosperous life like the others in the tribe. The people of the Li tribe heard this, and the worries and doubts in their hearts gradually faded. They thought there was no deep hatred between them and the Han tribe. There was really no need to risk their lives for a dead leader. So more and more people put down their weapons. The Li shaman saw this. Knowing that the situation was lost, he helplessly ordered a surrender. Big Rat saw this and arranged for warriors to help them pack their belongings, preparing to relocate. Thus, from the time the 2 sides engaged until the Li tribe surrendered, packed their belongings, the whole process took place within 1 morning. In the afternoon, Big Rat led the army of over 400 people to start the journey back. From then on, the Li tribe officially became the Li clan of the Han tribe. The population of the Han tribe also increased by more than 200 people thanks to this. That evening, during dinner, the high-ranking leaders of the Han tribe and Han Feng gathered together, eating while discussing the tribe's development. Dashu asked him full of curiosity, "Leader, is that colored stone really that important? Later, won't we need to mine copper or any more?" Han Feng put down his bowl and chopsticks, seriously explaining, "Iron ore is much more important than copper. But we will still continue to mine copper ore at Babeo Mountain. It's just that we will reduce the mining amount. Currently, priority is still given to mining limestone, because this is an indispensable material for building houses and smelting iron. This time, you lead a team to Babeo Mountain. Besides limestone, you must dig more kaolin and termite mound clay. I need to use them to make refractory bricks, then build several large blast furnaces. Only then can we increase our metallurgy speed and output." Dashu nodded repeatedly, showing he understood. Next, Han Feng turned to instruct Dali and Shuedo in detail. This time, the team going to the Salt Lake will be led by Dali as captain, Shuedo as vice captain. Upon arrival, first you must build a camp that can be lived in for a long time. There aren't as many trees there as here. Therefore, when building the camp, you can learn from the tree tribe's method, digging several semi-subterranean houses. That way it saves wood and makes it easy to manage slaves. You should divide the slaves into groups, lock them in separate earthen pits, and arrange for warriors to take turns guarding them. Daily, when the slaves go to work, tools must be distributed to them. But in the evening, when work ends, all tools must be collected. Reissue them the next day. During work, if a slave is found using tools to break the leg irons, then don't hesitate. Shoot to kill immediately. If there are lazy ones who refuse to work, then beat them. Anyone who doesn't obey, starve them. You must make them obedient." Dali and Shuedo nodded solemnly. "We remember. We will definitely follow your instructions." Han Feng nodded slightly and continued. "This time, Yufu will also go with you. But his mission is mainly to lead people to round up the wild horse herd. Once caught, return immediately. I will give him command of the entire cavalry unit, and let him help you clear out wild beasts around the mining area. As for how to catch wild horses, I have already told you. You must set up an ambush formation first, then send cavalry to scout for the horse herd. Then use the cavalry to drive the horse herd into the encirclement. Only then can we catch the whole herd. Later, these horses can be used to plow fields, reclaim more land, and plant more food. Whether we can make everyone well-fed or not depends on how many horses you can catch. The leaders heard him finish and nodded, showing they understood. Only the eagle leader sat there in deep thought, looking pensive, as if having to make a difficult decision. At this moment, Rue sat aside, pondering. These past days in the Han tribe, what he saw, what he heard, truly shocked him. After thinking carefully, Rue finally gathered the courage to say to Han Feng, "Leader Han, can our eagle tribe join the Han tribe? Living with you like the U tribe? I also want my tribesmen to live good days like this. It's just that I have a small worry. Our eagle tribe has raised giant eagles for generations. They have never left that floating island. I worry they won't get used to life here." Hearing Rue say this, Han Feng was both happy and surprised. He hurriedly said, "You want to join the Han tribe? That is naturally a good thing. As for the eagle problem, you don't need to worry. If you're worried about their breeding, we can build separate nests for them on the Western Mountain. Even if they aren't used to life here, they can still return to the floating island to breed. After all, the area around the Salt Lake is also our Han tribe's territory. Therefore, rest assured, and move the whole tribe here." Rue heard Han Feng say this, and nodded repeatedly. The worries in his heart gradually faded. He found Han Feng's arrangement very thoughtful, considering the special situation of the eagle tribe. This made Rue feel that Han Feng was a good leader, who knew how to care for others. He believed that, under Han Feng's leadership, he and his tribesmen would definitely have a better life. Rue stood up, solemnly bowing to Han Feng. "Leader, thank you for accepting us. Our eagle tribe will definitely be wholehearted and do our best to contribute to the Han tribe." Han Feng hurriedly stepped forward, helping Rue up. "Haha, great. From now on, you are the eagle clan of the Han tribe. Since you want to contribute to the tribe, then for this mission, you must participate." Rue excitedly patted his chest to guarantee. "Leader, just give the order. As long as we can do it, we will give our all." The mission this time is to support you Fu in completing the capture of wild horses. Your eagles have a huge advantage in the air. Therefore, this time you must mobilize all the eagles of the eagle tribe to carefully search for traces of the wild horse herd on the grassland. Once discovered, you must immediately guide our cavalry there. At the same time, direct the eagles to support the cavalry in encircling and driving the horses. No problem. We can definitely do it. Wait for me to return. I will arrange it immediately. Hui replied confidently. Yu Fu and Rue looked at each other, then forcefully pounded each other's chest, showing closeness and determination to cooperate. Both joined the Han tribe at the same time, and then stood shoulder to shoulder to complete this important mission. Their hearts were filled with hope and determination. Early the next morning, Dali, Yu Fu, Shueto, and Eagle Rue took 4 ox carts, 20 wheelbarrows, led 80 warriors and 100 shackled slaves, and set off majestically. They crossed the river directly via the Han tribe's wooden bridge, then followed the riverbank, heading north, straight to the iron mine at the Salt Lake. A day later, Big Rat led 200 warriors and over 200 Li tribe members, successfully back to the Han tribe. The more than 30 Li tribe members captured by Dashu were also released. They saw that the Li shaman had led the whole tribe to join the Han tribe, so they had no resentment left, naturally integrating into this big family. During this time, the Han tribe's second crop of wet rice was also sown, thanks to favorable weather. The seeds, after absorbing enough water, sprouted in just 3 days. In about 20 more days, these young seedlings would grow into healthy rice plants. At that time, they would have to transplant rice for the second time. However, due to the tribe's continuously increasing population, the food problem gradually became serious. To ensure everyone had enough food, Han Feng decided to expand the wet rice planting area. After careful consideration, Han Feng decided to expand the rice fields to the east bank of the river. Previously, there was the Tree tribe to the north, the Black Bear tribe to the east, and the Li tribe to the south. Now, all 3 tribes had joined the Han tribe. Han Feng could reclaim this entire vast area to ensure enough food. Moreover, the Han tribe had built a wooden bridge, so travel between the two banks was no longer difficult. However, digging a river was a huge project. If relying only on human strength, the progress would be too slow. Han Feng thought of using explosives to speed up the progress. There was still quite a lot of sulfuric acid left from before. It was just that the nitric acid had been used up when blasting the salt mine. Fortunately, this time at the salt mine area, Han Feng had discovered saltpeter. When returning, he brought back a few bags. This solved the problem of lacking raw materials for making explosives. For the next few days, Han Feng personally used a distillation pot to make acid. At the same time, he also refined glycerin. He made several jars of nitroglycerin. However, when making explosives, the tribe's fat reserves also decreased rapidly. Fortunately, the production of soap, a byproduct, also increased continuously. At the same time, a new type of tool, the Luoyang shovel, was also born under Han Feng's guidance. Leader, what is this strange shovel used for? Big Rat held a brand new bronze Luoyang shovel, asking Han Feng with a face full of doubt. A shovel is naturally used to dig soil, but this shovel is specifically used to drill holes in the ground. Han Feng patiently explained. Drilling holes? Isn't that digging pits? What for digging pits in the ground? Dashu also asked curiously. To dig a river, Han Feng replied briefly. Dashu and Big Rat looked at each other, eyes full of surprise and confusion. Today I will introduce something to everyone. That is the explosive I made a few days ago. It's the thing used to blast the salt cave last time. Relying on human strength to dig the river is too slow for us. Therefore, I intend to use explosives to blast out a river. Han Feng explained seriously. Explosives? Is it the thing that blasted the salt cave? Big Rat and Dashu heard this, shocked endlessly. A surge of excitement rose in their hearts. The leader actually shared such a magical thing with them. This made them feel his trust. In just 2 days, the tribesmen all knew the leader could make something called explosives and wanted to use it to dig a river. Heard the speed was much faster than human strength. It's just that exactly how to do it was still unclear to everyone. By the morning of the 3rd day, Han Feng led Dashu, Big Rat, and others to the other side of the river, preparing to test the amount of explosives needed. First, Big Rat used the Luoyang shovel to drill a vertical hole at the designated blast point. The hole mouth was 10 centimeters in diameter, 4 meters deep. The depth was precisely determined by the markings on the shovel handle. After the hole was drilled, Han Feng carefully poured the nitroglycerin prepared on site into a cylindrical jar, then slowly lowered the jar into the hole. Next, he used branches to set up a simple tripod over the hole mouth. A broken brick was hung on the tripod by a small hemp string. This was a simple but effective detonating device. Everything was ready. Han Feng led everyone to start the first blasting test. This time, the amount of explosives was about 300 grams. Han Feng personally lowered the jar containing explosives to the bottom of the hole. Then, he carefully hung the brick on the tripod above the hole mouth. The brick hung, suspended in the hole, 10 centimeters away, to avoid being blown by the wind and missing the jar when falling. Next, Han Feng started pulling the string, slowly retreating to the shelter 20 meters away. This shelter was a trench dug by Dashu and his men beforehand. Several people were lying prone inside, only sticking their heads out, nervously watching Han Feng approach. Then, Han Feng handed the small hemp string to Big Rat, letting him be in charge of detonating. Big Rat heard this, startled. I don't know how. What's there not to know? You just need to hold the string, wait for me to say release, then let go, then lie down. Han Feng patiently instructed Big Rat on how to detonate. But, leader, I am scared. Big Rat's face turned pale. His hands trembled as he gripped the string. His whole body was shaking. You are a man. What are you afraid of? Hurry up. This time you do it. Next time Dashu does it. Everyone has to try. Han Feng was both impatient and a bit helpless. Big Rat tremblingly took the string. Both hands gripped tightly. Sweat poured out. The other hand constantly wiped sweat from his forehead. All right, everyone lie down. Big Rat, listen to my command. I count 1 to 3, then release. Yes, I know. Big Rat's voice trembled, eyes not leaving Han Feng, holding his breath waiting. As soon as Han Feng shouted 3, Big Rat's tense nerves snapped. He instinctively let go, Immediately, the brick hanging at the top of the hole fell straight down vertically, accurately hitting the jar of explosives placed at the bottom. A loud explosion rang out. The jar shattered. The nitroglycerin inside immediately exploded. Countless rocks and soil flew everywhere. The ground was blown open, creating a pit 4 meters deep and over 3 meters in diameter. Hanfeng was the first to look up, brushing dirt off his head, then calling the people beside him to come look. Several people walked together to the blast site, looking at the large pit on the ground. Everyone's jaw dropped in amazement, although this was the second time they witnessed the power of explosives, but this time at such close range. Witnessing the entire blasting process with their own eyes still shocked them endlessly. Oh my God, this explosive is truly powerful. Just one bang created such a big pit. If 10 people used shovels to dig, it would surely take all day. This is truly a divine object. Big Rat looked at the large pit, eyes full of amazement and awe, unable to help but exclaim, "That's right. Now I understand how the leader intends to use explosives to dig the river." The leader will probably blast a series of holes along the river, creating a series of large pits, then connect those pits into a river. If done this way, the speed of river digging will be much faster. I estimate if there are enough materials, it will only take a few days to finish digging a canal. Dashu looked at the large pit, speaking thoughtfully. His eyes lit up, as if seeing a new canal flowing before his eyes. Smart. The specific plan is exactly like that. The power and effect of the explosives. You have all seen. Its power is truly immense. As long as we can master how to use it, then within a month, we can dig several more canals. That way, we can plant more wet rice this year. By winter, we can also store enough food and animal feed. Everyone won't have to worry about food or clothing anymore. Hearing this, everyone nodded repeatedly, hearts filled with hope and faith in the future. They knew well that with the wise leadership of the leader, along with the magical tool that is explosives, the Han tribe would definitely grow stronger day by day. After testing the amount of explosives, the blast effect, and determining the safe distance, the basic preparation work was complete. Han Feng began detailed planning for the land on the east bank of the small river. He planned to reserve a wide strip of land opposite the bridgehead as a road for people and vehicles to pass. Using this road as an axis, both sides would be rice fields, 500 meters wide and 1,000 meters long. Thus, the total area of rice fields on both sides of the road would be a square with sides of 1,000 meters, equivalent to 1,500 acres. Thus, the total area of rice fields reclaimed on both the east and west banks this year would reach about 2,500 acres, enough to meet the tribe's food reserve needs this year. The riverside area on the east bank was relatively flat. Trees were not too dense, mainly sparse forest, interspersed with some bushes. However, to reclaim this area into rice fields, it still needed clearing. Therefore, Han Feng called the logging team working in the western forest back, ordering them to clear the trees and bushes in this area. For large tree stumps, explosives could be used to blast them. This would be much faster than digging by hand. As for bush roots, plows could be used to turn them up. After reclaiming the rice fields, the fields would always be submerged in water. Any remaining roots would not be able to grow back. While the logging team was clearing the ground, Han Feng also assigned Dashu to lead people to conduct blasting on the west bank to dig a protective moat. Digging a protective moat not only served to protect the settlement, but also provided an abundant water source for the land to the west, convenient for reclaiming a vegetable patch in a western grassland, to plant various vegetables, enriching the tribe's food sources. Big Rat led a few people, using Luoyang shovels, to carefully drill holes along the protective moat, drilling one hole every 4 meters. After a day of hard work, they had drilled 50 holes, covering a length of 200 meters. The next day, Han Feng personally mixed the explosives, then carefully placed them at the bottom of the drilled holes. Dashu led people to quickly dig some simple shelters. Big Rat also led people to install the detonating devices. The elder and the rat shaman had informed the tribesmen in advance, asking everyone to stay away from the blasting area to ensure safety. Everything was ready. Han Feng called 50 tribesmen over, preparing to detonate simultaneously. 50 people held the detonating strings, lying prone in simple shelters 30 meters away. To ensure the signal was conveyed accurately, the signaling method was changed from shouting to drumming. He had people bring a large drum made of cowhide and place it 50 meters behind the shelters. This time, the signal was 3 drum beats. Upon hearing 3 drum beats, all detonators in front would simultaneously release the strings. A massive prehistoric explosion, earth-shaking, like the earth dragon turning over, started just like that. Immediately after, a deafening explosion rang out. To the south of the settlement, a column of soil over 200 meters long rose up, as if an earth dragon was emerging from the ground. The majestic scene terrified the witnesses. All the livestock of the Han tribe, led by Huishan and Robao, were frightened by the sudden explosion and vibration, lying flat on the ground, not daring to make sound. But the scene after the explosion excited everyone and made them rejoice. As the smoke and dust gradually cleared, a deep ditch 200 meters long appeared. The ditch that previously took dozens of people several weeks to dig, now under the power of explosives, was formed instantly. Just a little tidying up and water could be let in. After the blasting was done, Big Rat quickly led people to escort the slaves to work. They used wheelbarrows to collect the surrounding rocks and soil, then piled them up in the settlement, preparing to use them to build the city wall. The Han tribe officially entered a phase of large-scale construction, thanks to the joining of the Li tribe, along with the 2 tribes that submitted during the previous Western expedition. The Han tribe's labor force had been significantly supplemented. Han Feng seized the opportunity to reorganize the construction team, especially in charge of building houses. This time, the construction team was expanded to 30 groups, capable of building 30 houses simultaneously, significantly increasing construction speed. Tribesmen enthusiastically built houses in the settlement. Slaves toiled digging the river and transporting rocks and soil outside. All work was arranged in an orderly manner. The whole tribe was full of vitality and hustle. At this moment, everything in the Han tribe was on track. The whole tribe was full of vitality and hustle. The mining team, after going out many times, also brought back good news. After arriving at the Salt Lake area, they quickly started working. They built a solid base near the Salt Lake. At the same time, Yu Fu led the cavalry and all warriors of the Eagle tribe to conduct a large-scale hunt in the surrounding area, eliminating all wild beasts, ensuring safety for mining work. In the following days, Dali and Shuedo began leading the slaves to mine magnetite ore at full capacity. Carts of magnetite ore were mined continuously, then transported to the riverbank and piled up. Afterward, they were transported by boat back to the Han tribe. Yu Fu and Eagle Rue also started getting busy. First, they chose a location to set traps. Then, the cavalry and Eagle tribe warriors would drive the horse herd into the traps. Everything was proceeding according to plan. But some other tribes living on this land were living in misery, especially those tribes that had traded with the Han tribe during the spring gathering. Several months passed. The Han tribe's pottery and white salt were very popular with other tribes. Salt, for instance, was consumed very quickly, especially in summer, when sweating increased. The demand for salt increased even more. Tribes fell into a salt shortage again, but having gotten used to white salt, the sudden stop in supply made them very uncomfortable. Therefore, some tribes began looking for the Han tribe, wanting to trade for more white salt. The first tribe to act was the Yi tribe, living in Rumling Valley. The Yi tribe had about 400 people, living mainly by fishing. Food sources were quite stable and abundant, but because of the large population, the Yi tribe's white salt was consumed very quickly. By now, only the main laborers of the tribe were given a little white salt every 2 days, enough to taste the saltiness. But even so, the salt reserves were not enough to last until the next spring gathering. Leader Yi saw this and was very worried, feeling the situation wasn't good. He had to find a way to go to the Han tribe to exchange for salt. At this time, the elder of the Yi tribe made a suggestion. He said going alone was too dangerous. Why not invite a few more tribes to go together? There's strength in numbers. They could also help each other on the way. Leader Yi heard this and thought it made sense. He immediately set off for the Bear tribe. 2 days' journey away, the Bear tribe lived in the mountains, a tribe specialized in hunting. Everyone, young or old, male or female, were brave hunters. But their situation wasn't much better. When hearing Leader E explain the purpose of the trip, Leader Bear didn't hesitate and agreed to go along. After all, their tribe's salt was also running out. But when about to depart, the two leaders encountered a difficulty. They only knew the general direction of the Han tribe, not the exact location. Therefore, the two leaders decided to go to Rumong Valley first, then follow the direction the Han tribe left to search. The Han tribe had so many people, they would surely leave traces on the way. However, Leader Bear worried about what to use to exchange for salt. Leader E seemed to have prepared beforehand. He spoke slowly. Before, the Han tribe exchanged a lot of people for white salt. Now they surely won't use people for trade anymore. This time, he planned to send 10 warriors and 5 young women, bringing some animal skins to exchange for salt. If the Han tribe still wanted to exchange people, then exchange 5 people first. The rest will be figured out later. Leader Bear heard this, thought a bit about his tribe's situation. The tribe had few people. He could only send 10 warriors, bringing some animal skins. So, the two agreed on the idea. After discussing everything, they set off immediately. On the way, they continued to recruit other tribes to join. Very quickly, the team was like a snowball, growing bigger and bigger. When arriving at Rumong Valley, the team had reached 7 tribes, totaling 85 people. After resting for a day in Rumong Valley, 5 more tribes joined. The number of people in the team exceeded 100. Everyone gathered, discussed carefully, then headed northeast of Rumong Valley. On the way, they found signs left by the Han tribe. Everyone followed the signs. The next day, they met the Snake tribe. The Snake tribe's hunting team initially saw them from afar and thought a large tribe was coming to attack. Terrified endlessly, after looking closely, they recognized a few acquaintances who had participated in the spring gathering. The Yi tribe captain saw this and stepped forward to ask if the Snake tribe knew where the Han tribe was. The Snake tribe captain frowned and thought for a moment, then said he wasn't sure either. But the Bien tribe and the Han tribe had a good relationship. Maybe they knew. So the Han tribe search team followed the Snake tribe to the Bien tribe. Upon arrival, everyone was stunned. The men of the Bien tribe all tied their hair up, completely different from before. The Bien tribe warriors saw the uninvited guests and held their spears alert. The Snake tribe captain hurriedly explained, "These people are members of tribes that participated in the spring gathering. They want to go to the Han tribe to trade." Then, the Bien tribe warrior proudly said that their tribe had joined the Han tribe. Although they hadn't moved there yet, the Han tribe was building houses for them. The Yi tribe captain heard this and hurriedly asked if they could lead them to the Han tribe to exchange for salt. The Bien tribe warrior frowned slightly, saying he had to ask the leader first. He also reminded them that there were many traps in front of the Han tribe. Without a guide, it was very easy to encounter danger. Chang quickly received the news, but she didn't dare to decide on her own. She had to send a warrior to find the Han tribe's patrol team, asking them to pass the message to Han Feng. The Han tribe search team was invited to rest at the Bien tribe. At the Bien tribe, the vast ramie fields and exquisite hemp bags made by the women made everyone marvel. Chang looked at everyone's surprised faces and told the Snake tribe captain that the reason they agreed to join the Han tribe was because the Han tribe's leader was very talented. He had created tools that made weaving easier. Moreover, the pottery and white salt given by the Han tribe were so abundant they couldn't use it all. More importantly, if they encountered enemies, Leader Han Feng would send warriors to help protect them. After everyone rested for a day at the Bien tribe, the Han tribe's patrol team finally arrived, reporting the news that tribes wanted to exchange salt to Han Feng. That night, Han Feng summoned the high-ranking leaders to discuss this matter. Big Rat was the first to speak. He thought they could continue exchanging people for salt. After all, the tribe had planted a lot of wet rice this year. Feeding 200 or 300 more people was not a problem. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the elder and the rat shaman voiced their opposition. The elder said worriedly, "This year the tribe has added many new members. Everyone is busy building houses, feeding people. Moreover, winter is coming. The livestock reserves in the tribe are not large. If the population continues to increase, I'm afraid there won't be enough animal skins to use. Therefore, they suggested using white salt to exchange for animal skins." Han Feng listened to their debate, sitting quietly on the side. deep in thought. After a while, Big Rat waved his hand in front of Han Feng's face. Leader, what are you thinking? Are we going to continue exchanging people for salt or not? Han Feng came back to his senses. I have thought about this issue carefully. Temporarily, we won't exchange people for salt anymore. Did you notice? This time, they gathered into a group to come here on their own. We must be careful. What if, because we continue to exchange people for salt, it causes other tribes to be dissatisfied, and then they gather to attack us? That would be very troublesome. Therefore, it's better to use white salt to exchange for other things. As the elder said, animal skins are a good choice. Everyone heard Han Feng's analysis, found it reasonable, and nodded in agreement. But just after nodding, they saw Han Feng deep in thought again. Big Rat couldn't help it, and asked again, Leader, what else are you thinking about? Is there something more important? Han Feng looked up, looking at everyone with determined eyes. I intend to announce farming methods and share seeds, so that tribes coming to exchange salt can also grow their own food. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone was shocked. Sharing technology with other tribes? Isn't that creating competitors for ourselves? But Han Feng just smiled, speaking his thoughts. On this vast land, although the Han tribe currently has some advantages, if we want to truly be the hegemon, we can't just think of ourselves. As long as we spread farming techniques, agricultural tribes will develop quickly. At that time, wherever food is grown, people will remember the Han tribe, knowing that the Han tribe has a godlike talented leader. Moreover, even if other tribes learn how to farm, they are just reclaiming land for the Han tribe. The Han tribe has advanced metallurgy technology, possessing armor and long blades. Facing tribes that just learned farming, they basically aren't qualified to be our opponents. These words of Han Feng made Big Rat, the elder, and the rat shaman stunned. This was the first time they heard Han Feng frankly express his ambition to conquer the continent. A feeling of boiling excitement rose in Big Rat's heart. Passion. He felt that if the Han tribe could truly achieve this hegemony, it would be an extremely glorious thing. But the rat shaman and the elder leaned towards developing the tribe steadily. They felt that just leading the tribesmen to be better and better was satisfying enough. Regarding Han Feng's idea, they didn't fully agree. However, Han Feng also had a way to persuade these two old men. He said to them sincerely, the Han tribe has power that makes others envious. We can't just enjoy leisure, even if we have to conquer later. It is because we want more people to live good days like us. From a certain perspective, this can also be considered helping them. Moreover, conquest doesn't necessarily require force. We can totally use other ways to make the Han tribe powerful. For example, through trade to gain more population, or using culture to influence other tribes. And what I intend to do next is to establish a market in the Han tribe, spreading Han culture through various goods. For example, on pottery, fabrics, tools, all printed with drawings and writing of the Han tribe, so that tribesmen of other tribes buying Han tribe goods in daily life constantly come into contact with Han culture, thereby deeply remembering the Han tribe. That way, when we give them a chance to join the Han tribe, maybe they will come voluntarily. The two old men heard Han Feng explain. Although they didn't understand clearly yet, they felt this seemed beneficial to the Han tribe too. So, everything was decided just like that. After that, Han Feng told the warriors of the hunting patrol to go back and answer, asking them to bring those people to the Han tribe tomorrow. He would talk to them himself. Noon the next day, the news was delivered to the Bian tribe. The warriors of the hunting patrol conveyed Han Feng's words, agreeing to trade with them again, and clarifying that there was no need to use people for exchange. In addition, the Han tribe would teach them a new method to get food. Anyone who wanted to learn could. This news made the tribesmen of the tribes overjoyed. They immediately followed the warriors of the hunting patrol, heading toward the Han tribe. After a hard day's journey, the coalition team of tribes finally reached the Han tribe. They arrived right at noon. At this time, the Han tribe was also busy harvesting peanuts, just in time to use peanuts to show these people the results of farming. More than 100 people were led straight to the main road east of the settlement. They only saw vast wet rice fields on both sides of the road. Near the riverbank, there was a field about to be harvested. In the rice field at this moment, there were many people transplanting rice. This work had been going on for several days, but nearly 1,000 acres of fields. Finishing transplanting wasn't easy. The Han tribesmen bent over, holding bundles of young seedlings. carefully planting each plant into the field. This scene confused the more than 100 people standing on the main road, hearts full of doubt. A tribesman of the E tribe couldn't help asking the person next to him, what are they doing? Why aren't they hunting, nor gathering, but sticking grass into the water? The person asked was also bewildered, shaking his head. I don't know either. I'm also wondering why they brought us here. Why haven't they exchanged white salt for us yet? After a while, buzzing discussions arose in the team. Some complained, some were curious, some also observed carefully, trying to find the answer. Just then, a round of applause rang out, attracting everyone's attention. Anfeng, Gwedina Vranskelmit, along with 2 elders and over a dozen young men were approaching. These dozen young men were those bought from tribes during the spring gathering, now sought out by Han Feng to be temporary translators. Everyone saw Han Feng appear and immediately fell silent. Eyes focused on the young leader. Han Feng smiled, his gaze sweeping over everyone, then spoke slowly. I know you came here because you want exchange for white salt. Everyone rest assured. The Han tribe's white salt is enough to exchange for everyone. You don't need to rush. Later someone will lead you to exchange salt. But I think right now you must be very curious. Why brought you here? What are our Han tribesmen doing? After speaking, Han Feng looked at the translators behind him, signaling them to translate what he just said. As soon as he finished, the more than 100 people buzzed with discussion again, guessing wildly what the Han tribe was doing. Their curiosity had been completely aroused. Seeing the people behind had finished conveying his words, Han Feng raised his hand slightly, signaling everyone to be quiet. He continued, perhaps some people have guessed it. They're also getting food. We sow seeds of edible plants into the ground. Wait until these plants grow up. Mature, they will bear fruit. And that is food. Han Feng's words were like a stone thrown into a calm lake, immediately causing a stir in the crowd. Everyone discussed in amazement. For them, this was a way of getting food they had never heard of before. In their perception, besides hunting and gathering, was there such a magical way? If it was really like that, wouldn't it mean just planting as much food as you want to eat? Later there would be no more worry about famine. Could this be the method of getting food the Han tribe wanted to teach them? Han Feng looked at everyone's surprised faces, smiling. Perhaps everyone finds it hard to believe, and doesn't believe this will happen. Therefore, I'll let everyone come here to see for themselves. Next, someone will lead everyone to see our Han tribe's peanut field. That is also a type of food. Everyone see for yourselves, and it will be clear. After speaking, Han Feng led everyone toward the field. At this time, the peanut leaves had turned yellow and withered. It was the ideal time for harvest. They only saw tribesmen preparing to harvest peanuts lined up neatly, walking along the peanut rows, bending down as they walked. To pull up peanuts, plump peanuts were pulled up from the ground, then arranged neatly on the rows to dry. According to custom, these peanuts needed to be sun-dried for 2 days before being brought to the square to be shelled, or continue to dry until completely dry. The more than 100 people, under the guidance of translators, followed closely behind the harvesting team, eyes not leaving the freshly pulled peanuts, faces full of curiosity. Some even picked up fresh peanuts just pulled up, shelled them, and put them in their mouths to taste. After tasting, they immediately asked their translators, how is this plant called peanut grown? How long does it take to harvest once? How much can be harvested? Enough for how many people to eat? Etc. The translators didn't hide anything, clearly stating the method of planting peanuts, and adding about the growth time. As for how much could be harvested, enough for how many people to eat, they weren't very clear either. But leader Han Feng had said, peanuts are not the main food of the Han tribe, but mainly wet rice. Rice made from wet rice plants, delicious and filling, is the favorite food of the Han tribesmen. Wet rice, isn't that the grass planted underwater? A tribesman of the Yu tribe asked with a doubtful face. That's right, that is wet rice. Now, they have only grown a few leaves. Wait until they mature. They will form rice grains. After drying, peeling those rice grains, you will get rice. Rice is very hard, must be cooked to eat. The translator for the Yu tribe patiently introduced. So how long does this wet rice take to grow? Is the harvest as much as peanuts? Wet rice grows very fast. From sowing to harvest takes only about 3 months, at most about 100 days. Moreover, wet rice yield is very high. Just rice from one wet rice plant is enough for a person to eat a full meal. Furthermore, wet rice can be planted at least 2 crops a year. This year, our Han tribe has harvested 1 crop. Now, planting the second crop. We'll harvest in the first month of autumn. The rice harvested is enough for the whole tribe to eat throughout the winter. Everyone heard this and nodded. Most had silently decided to bring this farming technique back to their tribe to solve the food problem. After the tour finished, Han Feng let Big Rat exchange white salt for them. The Han tribe also obtained quite a few animal skins. By afternoon, when having dinner, the Han tribe used freshly harvested peanuts and rice cooked into a light red porridge to treat the guests from afar. The Han tribesmen also ate peanut porridge today, along with delicious fish and meat. Children of 2 or 3 years old opened their mouths waiting for mothers to feed porridge. The whole tribe was filled with a warm atmosphere. Harmonious. Is this thing made from wet rice and peanuts? Turns out it's cooked with water into porridge like this. It tastes really good. Why didn't I think of exchanging these things with the Han tribe back then? Now it's too late to regret. A tribesman of the Tattoo tribe said to his tribesmen, those who were sold to the Han tribe during the spring gathering, you guys were exchanged to the Han tribe. Truly lucky. Every day, getting to eat delicious food like this, and not having to worry about starving to death. Hee hee, of course. Now I live very well in the Han tribe. Never have to worry about starving. Moreover, not long from now, we will get to wear clothes made of hemp cloth. People from different tribes, reunited here, were excitedly telling each other about what they had experienced, discussing the beautiful life in the Han tribe. Just then, Han Feng came out, clapping his hands, attracting everyone's attention. He knew it was time to announce the establishment of the market. At this moment, people from different tribes, reunited here, were excitedly telling each other about what they had experienced. Tribes coming to trade were full of admiration for the Han tribe's life. Right then, Han Feng stepped out, clapping his hands lightly. Everyone's eyes immediately turned to Han Feng. Everyone knew he had something to say again. Han Feng announced the idea of establishing a market for the Han tribe. The time would be the first 7 days of each month. Trade items were no longer limited to animal skins and people. As long as it was something the Han tribe didn't have, it could be brought for exchange. Hearing this, the trade teams of the tribes were overjoyed. From now on, they no longer had to worry about trade items. Moreover, even if the distance to the Han tribe was far, they also had enough time to come for trade. In addition, Han Feng also announced providing free seeds to everyone and promised to help them solve problems encountered during farming. Some farming tools could also be exchanged with items. These words of Han Feng made everyone completely reassured. They stood up in unison, bowing to Han Feng to express deep gratitude to the Han tribe. The next day, trade teams of the tribes came to the Han tribe to receive seeds. Each person was also gifted 1 caddy of rice. Then they set off to return. They all hurried back to their tribes, wanting to quickly bring these seeds back. It must be known that these things were powerful enough to change the destiny of each tribe. That afternoon, the salt mine area sent another boat of iron ore. After half a month of continuous transport, this was already the 7th trip. Each trip, the amount of iron ore transported was about 10 tons. Currently, the Han tribe's iron ore reserves had reached nearly 100 tons. If all this iron ore was smelted into steel, it would be several dozen tons. Enough for the Han tribe to use for a long time. Han Feng immediately instructed the 4 warriors escorting the boat. After returning, transport 1 more trip of iron ore. After that, the people at the mine could withdraw to join forces with Yu Fu's team, quickly bringing the horse herd back. Moreover, this year operations in the north would be temporarily paused, so everyone could stay in the tribe with peace of mind to prepare for winter. Hearing this, the 4 warriors steering the boat were very happy. They naturally wished to return home to reunite with their families. 3 days later, Shuedo returned to the tribe, reporting to Han Feng that they had caught 329 wild horses. The whole Han tribe rejoiced, celebrating, with over 300 more draft animals. The Han tribe could continue to expand the cultivation area, bringing more benefits to the tribe's development. And the tribes that had just traded with the Han tribe were also immersed in joy. At the E tribe, a tribe with over 400 people, living mainly by fishing, leader E and elder E were enjoying this novel rice dish. Although it was just white rice, the 2 ate very deliciously. The white-haired elder chewed the rice, while silently exclaiming in his heart, "Leader Han, is truly generous, sharing such precious technology with other tribes. And leader, he had started calculating about farming. His tribe was near a water source, must quickly reclaim land, sow seeds, try to harvest a crop before winter comes. At the same time, must also arrange people to collect more things, and go to the Han tribe's market to exchange for more pottery. After all, pots and pans, bowls and plates in the tribe were still lacking. At the same time, other tribes were no exception. Everyone wanted to seize this opportunity to change their tribe's destiny. But not every tribe had favorable conditions like the Yi tribe. Therefore, to be able to farm smoothly, some tribes began looking for suitable places nearby. Some tribes even decided to relocate to a new place. In the following days, tribes were all busy, hustling. Some tribes were busy moving, searching for fertile land. Some tribes had started plowing fields. They enthusiastically hoed the earth, as if hoeing up not just soil, but hope for the future. There were also tribes that had started collecting things the Han tribe needed, like animal skins, special plants, live animals, rare stones, herbs, etc. They carefully collected these things, waiting for the market at the beginning of the month to exchange for necessary supplies for the tribe. As for Han Feng, he wasn't idle either. He was thinking about what goods to make for sale. At the same time, must imprint the Han tribe's own mark on those goods, so that Han culture could spread with the products. He had people make bronze branding irons with carved characters. All wooden buckets for sale were stamped made by Great Han, so everyone would know at a glance this was a Han tribe product. Other products were also improved by Han Feng, since the Han tribe had made foot-operated spinning wheels. Mastering flywheel technology, Han Feng had an idea. He guided the carpentry group to quickly create a new device, the potter's wheel. This potter's wheel had a small flywheel and a transmission shaft. Below there was a pedal. Just sit on the chair. Use foot to press the pedal. The potter's wheel would rotate automatically. At this time, pottery shaping could begin. With the potter's wheel, the Han tribe's pottery technique took a leap forward, not only making pottery faster, but also making pottery more beautiful and exquisite. However, Han Feng made the potter's wheel not just to make pottery more beautiful. His ultimate goal was to print characters and paint colors on pottery. This was also quite simple. Just coat a layer of glaze on the semi-dry pottery surface. White porcelain glaze is the easiest to make. Just mix kaolin with water. Stir well until slightly thick. Then pour the glaze into a bucket. Then gently roll the semi-dry pottery in the glaze bucket. You'll get a white porcelain blank. Wait for the porcelain blank to dry. Then put in the kiln to fire. You will get pure white porcelain. Other colored glazes are made similarly. Just change the raw materials. Thus, the Han tribe's pottery became diverse, rich, completely different from before. Finally, use red glaze to print made by Great Han on the bottom of the bowl. Then add some blessing words like favorable weather, abundance year after year. Every time eating, seeing these characters, people will remember the Han tribe. Han Feng also didn't forget to print Han characters on both sides of food sacks using juice from the red grass plant. Currently, pottery, water containers, and sacks were the 3 best-selling items of the Han tribe. Also things other tribes would definitely buy when coming to the market. After a while longer, the Han tribe's goods would become even more diverse. Iron pots, iron farming tools would appear on the market one after another. The Han tribe's culture would gradually spread. Later, Yufu could take these goods to sell in farther places. While Han Feng was busy, the team led by Dali, Yufu, and Eagle Rue also returned. By this time, Uncle Dashu was still continuing to mine at Babeo Mountain. Almost all forces of the Han tribe were concentrated in the settlement. The Han tribe's construction projects continued to be implemented. After several months of hard work, 2 residential areas were built, with a total of 198 houses, although only the rough parts were finished. Windows hadn't been installed yet, but currently it was summer, so it didn't affect living. Han Feng immediately ordered, let families with small children move in first. The rest would be arranged accommodation after more new houses were available. Time flew fast. By the end of the 2nd month of summer, the Han tribe had prepared the first batch of goods for sale. Han Feng guarded the goods, heart full of expectation for the first guests to the market. He waited for 2 days, but no tribe came. Although Han Feng was a bit disappointed, he still comforted himself. Maybe other tribes just received seeds, were busy reclaiming land, sowing, so didn't have time to come yet. But some tribesmen weren't as patient as Han Feng. They were all gloomy, depressed, feeling the whole tribe's effort recently had gone down the drain. By the third day, finally, a few figures appeared in the distance. Han Feng immediately cheered up, sending someone to check. Before long, that tribesman ran back excitedly to report. Leader, people from other tribes are here. Moreover, this time there are nearly 300 people. Han Feng was overjoyed, but still kept a calm face, preparing to welcome guests. Must let them feel the enthusiasm and sincerity of the Han tribe. When everyone gradually approached, Han Feng saw the faces, familiar faces of the tribes. The stone in his heart was finally set down. His plan had finally succeeded in the first step. Big Rat followed Han Feng's words, leading a few tribesmen, standing at the market gate to welcome guests, then led them to the goods display area. People from the tribes looked at the exquisite pottery, convenient water buckets, and sacks with printed characters. Eyes all lit up, full of surprise and admiration. They never thought these things could be made so beautifully. Look at the characters on the pottery. So beautiful. There are even colorful patterns. Must be very expensive. A tribesman of the snake tribe whispered to the person next to him. Big Rat smiled and said, "These are all products of our Han tribe." Our leader said, "As long as everyone has a need, you can use your things to exchange. This time we brought a lot of good goods. Everyone take your time to choose." Everyone gathered around, starting to choose the items they liked. Big Head was busy bargaining with them. According to the standard Han Feng set, 5 medium-sized animal skins could exchange for 1 white porcelain bowl. Tribesmen of the Tiger tribe heard this, although a bit regretful, still gritted their teeth to exchange for a few. Just as the market session was lively, a noise suddenly erupted at a nearby stall. It turned out a Han tribesman was arguing with someone from another tribe. That person wanted to use a deer skin to exchange for 2 earthen pots, and wanted to use deer antlers to exchange for a white porcelain bowl. That tribesman felt it was unfair, so the two sides argued fiercely. Finally, that tribesman ran annoyed to find Han Feng to complain. Han Feng heard this, secretly suspicious in his heart. Why are there over 100 identical deer skins? This seems strange. Wait until seeing those skins and antlers with his own eyes. Han Feng's eyes lit up. Those weren't deer skins and antlers, but antelope skins and horns. Moreover, the skinning technique and the complete skins were flawless. Han Feng could affirm these antelopes were definitely raised, not wild animals. After observing carefully, Han Feng was overjoyed. They were saiga antelopes. This is truly a treasure. If we can raise them, then the Han tribe will have endless meat to eat. Han Feng cleared his throat, saying to those who came to trade, "Your animal skins are truly very good. Not a single hole. Therefore, I can increase the price for you. 2 animal skins exchange for 3 earthen pots. A pair of goat horns exchange for 1 porcelain bowl. However, I also have a condition. Next time, you must bring me 100 live antelopes. Must be male, from 2 to 3 years old. If you can't do it, later the Han tribe won't trade with you anymore." The other party heard this, stunned, stammering that he couldn't decide on his own. This matter must be agreed upon by their leader. Han Feng didn't make it difficult for him either, waving his hand to let the tribesmen exchange goods for them at the agreed price. This market session, besides the Horn tribe, there were many other tribes coming to trade. The Flint tribe brought flint. The Snake tribe brought some herbs and a strange tuber. Han Feng thought to himself, using this to pickle vegetables later will definitely be delicious. Golden Rami vines from the Rami tribe, red sugar from the U tribe, tendons from the Tan tribe, mushrooms from the Mushroom tribe, fish skin from the E tribe. The Han tribe bought them all. Han Feng also bought 2 people with painting talent from the Wen tribe to let them work in the pottery department. He even named them Manhwa and 1 yen. The market session was expected to last 7 days. However, some tribes arrived late, so it only took place for 2 days. But after the market session ended, tribes still came to exchange goods. Even some small tribes, hearing the Han tribe planted wet rice, didn't mind the long distance, coming to ask to learn techniques and ask for seeds. Han Feng agreed to all. Half a month later, the Han tribe's refractory bricks were finished. Han Feng began planning the design and construction of a new type of blast furnace. Although the construction process was very complicated and progress was slow, Han Feng knew well, quality comes first. must be slow and careful. At the beginning of the 4th month of summer, the Han tribe jubilantly organized a second market session. This time, many tribes came, all wanting to learn wet rice farming techniques. Like the Yi tribe, they lived near the river, having very favorable natural conditions for wet rice farming. Their rice planting area was also the largest. They had finished transplanting seedlings. Other tribes were also working urgently. However, surprisingly, the Horn tribe didn't come. This made the high-ranking leaders of the Han tribe very annoyed. Big Rat was impatient, wanting to lead people to rob the saiga, antelope's back. But Han Feng thought they could wait and see. This market session, Han Feng had another new discovery. Some small tribes brought wild honey. Those are all good things. Han Feng immediately bought it all at a high price. In addition, there were loofahs, radishes, tomatoes, beans, and many other vegetables and fruits. Han Feng saw them, eyes shining, and also bought them all at a high price. At the same time, didn't forget to order seeds. Later, the Han tribe could plant these things. The Horn tribe returned. Leader Yuan saw the exquisite pottery, precious white salt, and was very happy in his heart. But the joy didn't last long. When hearing the trade team say the Han tribe wanted 100 live antelopes, the smile on his face disappeared immediately. These antelopes were the tribe's treasure. If not given, he feared the Han tribe wouldn't sell white salt to them anymore. Therefore, he hurriedly called the shaman to discuss. Finally, they decided to gift the antelopes to the Han tribe, but only this once. Later, they would only use animal skins for trade. After that, the Horn tribe prepared urgently for half a month, gathering dry grass and drying it, bundling it up. They also carefully selected 40 adult warriors to escort 100 antelopes. To avoid being discovered by others, they deliberately chose a time different from the market session of other tribes, following narrow paths, with few people passing by, carefully advancing toward the Han tribe. At this time, under Han Feng's arrangement, the Han tribe was busy with the census and rearranging families. Women of the Fire tribe were paired with men of the Han tribe. Disabled people and women who lost fertility were also arranged suitable work. So everyone had a stable life. After finishing building houses, workers continued to build public facilities like warehouses in the storage area and barns in the livestock area. Building warehouses was not simple. An area with sides of 110 meters needed 12 warehouses built. With such a wide distance, they had to erect brick pillars in the middle to support the roof. Han Feng racked his brains, designing a detailed construction process. At the same time, he devised a new tool, the ramming cart. With the ramming cart, foundation work speed was much faster. Just as the foundation was finished, the Horn tribe's antelope escort team arrived. Han Feng heard the news and hurriedly ran out to see. When seeing the saiga antelopes jumping around, the stone in his heart was finally set down. He secretly rejoiced that his guess was correct. People from the Horn tribe stepped forward, saying since they were live antelopes, the price had to increase a bit. 1 liter antelope had to exchange for 5 earthen pots or 5 large bowls of white salt. Han Feng thought for a moment, finding it reasonable, and nodded in agreement. Since they had few people, carrying many earthen pots wasn't convenient, so most exchanged for bowls and white salt. Only exchange a few pots. After the transaction was done, people of the Horn tribe took the goods back. The Han tribe continued construction work, handing the antelopes to tribesmen specialized in raising livestock. Time flew fast. In a blink, autumn arrived. The Han tribe's third market session began again, but this time, trade volume decreased significantly. Han Feng knew, well, everyone was busy storing food for winter, so he enthusiastically guided tribes on how to make salted meat. Therefore, tribes began buying white salt in large quantities again. At the same time, the Han tribe ceramic industry was also adjusted, switching to low-quantity but high-quality production. They started making more exquisite products. After all, the 2 painters Han Feng bought weren't for display. Must let them be useful. The Rami field of over 2,000 acres of the Bien tribe harvested 4 times this year. Han Feng, considering long-term development, told them to temporarily stop harvesting, waiting for the Rami seeds to ripen. Therefore, the Bien tribe also moved to the Han tribe. Also at this time, Yu Fu, the guy who couldn't sit still, sought out Han Feng, saying he had an idea and wanted Han Feng to decide. At this moment, Yu Fu, the guy who couldn't sit still, sought out Han Feng again, saying he wanted to lead a merchant team, to haul the remaining pottery and white salt to the East Bank for a trip. He wanted to organize a market on the East Bank later, once a month at the beginning and end of the month. That way, Han culture could spread farther. Moreover, it was already autumn. Some edible fruits were ripe. Maybe this trip, he could bring back some vegetables or seeds from the East Bank. Han Feng thought for a moment and agreed, letting Yu Fu lead 40 male tribesmen, 2 ox carts full of salt and pottery. In addition, each person was equipped with a riding horse. That way they could explore farther places. Just need to return before winter comes. In this team, there were a few special people. 2 were teenagers from the former Ball tribe. Their Han language and characters were the best learned. In addition, there were 2 teenagers from the Eagle tribe. They brought their giant eagles, Atuka, with these 4 people. Even if the team went very far, they could use eagles to send messages. Yu Fu was very satisfied with Han Feng's arrangement, quickly leading the expedition team on their way. As for Han Feng, he still had to continue supervising the city construction. Currently, the most important item was building the warehouse. Initially, due to many people, progress was quite fast. But later, as the walls got higher, speed gradually slowed down. Therefore, Han Feng asked the carpentry group to spend 2 days urgently making some pulleys, then immediately handed them to the construction team. With pulleys, the warehouse construction speed increased significantly. Finally, when there was only 1 week left until the end of the month, the warehouse was finished. It was tall and spacious, with an area of up to 600 square meters, accumulating valuable experience for building high-rise buildings later. When the first month of autumn ended, the sweltering heat of summer gradually faded. Early morning and late night were a bit chilly. Han Feng also became the first person in the tribe to wear wool clothes. Outside were pants and a cross-collared robe. The robe hem reached the knees, made of wool fabric. On his feet were short leather boots. He looked extremely dashing. However, not everyone could wear such clothes. After the Bien tribe joined, they put all their effort into weaving cloth. But the number of looms was limited, so linen and wool fabric couldn't be popularized yet. Only a few high-ranking leaders in the tribe received a set. The rest was only for newborns. But fortunately, currently the tribe didn't lack animal skins, so everyone didn't worry about being cold. Before long, the Han tribe's market began again. Tribes that had received wet rice seeds came to learn again. Smaller tribes also brought vegetable seeds to exchange for pottery and white salt. Because the city wall wasn't finished yet, the scene inside the Han tribe settlement was exposed to their eyes. Previously, they had seen the neat brick houses of the Han tribe from afar, very admiring. But this time, the sudden appearance of the tall warehouse, massive, made them even more amazed, completely daring not to believe how such a big house could be built. Moreover, how warm it would be inside during winter. But the captain leading the team didn't forget his main mission. He heard the Han tribe's wet rice was ripe, so he had to quickly come see, learning harvesting techniques. At this time, the wet rice had been drained, sun-dried for 7 or 8 days. Although drier and sturdier, the rice plants were yellowish green, but the rice ears had turned golden yellow. The trade teams coming to learn were led down to the fields, observing up close how the Han tribe harvested rice. Han Feng even let them use sickles to harvest apart themselves. This wasn't to force them to do free labor, but mainly for them to learn how to use sickles, harvesting techniques, and some notes. These past few days, those willing to help with farm work were provided food by the Han tribe. Throughout the 7 days of the market, they learned how to reap, thresh dry grain, hull rice, bag and store. On the last day of the market, everyone even got to taste new rice. Thanks to that, they gained full knowledge of the entire wet rice harvesting process. In this market session, the best-selling item was sacks. Next was white salt, then bronze sickles, metal sickles, one exchange for 2 large animal skins. Although tribes found it a bit expensive because they wanted to harvest wet rice, they had to grit their teeth and buy a few. After 7 days of market, the Han tribe's wet rice was also dried and stored in the warehouse. Over 900 acres of fields harvested enough food for the whole tribe to eat throughout the winter. Moreover, the Han tribe still had meat reserves. Although the livestock industry was still in the early stages of development, pigs and saiga antelopes couldn't be slaughtered yet. Cattle had to be used for plowing, but the flock of over 1,000 red-tailed chickens could provide eggs continuously, and rabbits could also provide a portion of meat. There was another piece of good news. The sea fish species migrating upriver to breed that Han Feng had seen before had reappeared. Currently, besides the construction team building the livestock workshop, most people were free. Therefore, Han Feng transferred some people to the fishing team, increasing fishing, storing more meat for the coming long winter. At this time, Han Feng calculated silently. Large fish migrating upriver proved this place might be very close to the sea estuary. Being near the sea had many advantages. Rich marine resources. If later the Han tribe could develop to the coast, then first, salt supply would never be lacking. Moreover, when the Han tribe grew strong, lacking food, could also build boats. Fishing from the ocean to get endless resources could also develop water trade, helping the Han tribe become richer and richer. Just don't know how far Fu can go this time, whether he can find a sea or not. However, he didn't hope too much. Tribe construction still had to continue. He started planning the livestock area, intending to build according to warehouse standards, but fewer in number. He didn't plan to build separate rabbit hutches. Currently, the Han tribe had a better goat breed, the saiga antelope. Wait until the goat herd was large enough. Rabbits would definitely be eliminated. Not that rabbits wouldn't be raised anymore, just that rabbits would be distributed to households for tribesmen to raise themselves, considered a supplementary food source. 2 months left until winter. He ordered the construction team to build at least 2 livestock areas. This was the minimum requirement. The Han tribe's 300 horses definitely must have a separate area. Cattle, goats, llamas, alpacas were few in number, could be temporarily housed together. As for rabbits, before winter comes, slaughter a batch, the rest distributed to households. No need to build separate hutches. After arranging everything, Han Feng urged the blast furnace construction, preparing iron smelting materials, stockpiling ore and charcoal, along with auxiliary equipment like high scaffolds and cranes. Because this blast furnace was a top-loading type, it must be capable of transporting a large amount of material up high in a short time. Fortunately, when building the warehouse before, the Han tribe already had relevant techniques available. Large wooden frame structures and labor-saving pulleys were all mastered, so manufacturing wasn't too difficult. However, these things were used for iron smelting. Heavy load, so Han Feng ordered thicker ropes and all-metal pulleys made. It's just that currently there were no iron chains yet. If there were iron chains, it would be better. Days passed. Projects were still proceeding urgently. Mid-second month of autumn, Fu's team arrived at the Lu tribe. It was the tribe raising spotted pigs. Last time, Fu exchanged for dozens of pigs, with pottery and white salt. Time passed. White salt was consumed very quickly. Last time Fu left saying he would return soon, but several months passed with no news. Leader Lu, named Gu, was already very impatient, waiting for Fu every day. When they were almost desperate, Fu suddenly appeared in the Lu tribe's territory. A tribesman hurriedly ran to report to Leader Gu, saying this time Fu's team brought 2 large carts. Moreover, everyone was riding beasts. Not a single woman. Gu heard this and stood up abruptly. Quick, lead me to see. Don't know how much salt they brought. This time if they leave, probably won't come back this year. After walking a distance, Gu saw Fu riding a horse. You guys finally came. Our white salt is almost gone. If you didn't come, don't know how to live later. Fu smiled, telling Gu that this time he brought a lot of salt. Enough for this trade. However, currently he had joined a powerful Han tribe, according to the leader's instructions. After this trade, he probably wouldn't come anymore. Gu heard this and was momentarily worried. If you don't come later, then how do we exchange things later? Fu hurriedly explained. Our leader said, later there will be periodic markets organized at the Han tribe. Later, if you want to exchange things, you can go there yourselves to trade. Then he clarified details about trading and the location of the Han tribe. Gu heard this, only then feeling somewhat reassured. After that, the two discussed the trade quantity this time. The Lu tribe agreed to exchange 60 more pigs for pottery and white salt. Fu didn't agree immediately because he still had to go farther, so he would come back to get those 60 pigs later. Leader Gu didn't object either, just that he was a bit curious, not knowing where else Fu wanted to go. How long until he returned? Fu said guaranteed to return within a month, but didn't know what tribes were to the south. This matter Leader Gu wasn't clear about either, but he heard the deceased elders in the tribe recount. Their tribe migrated from the south a long time ago. There was a place full of water there, vast and boundless. Yu Fu heard this, immediately interested in this place. Intuition told him. That place full of water definitely had many people. This time if he could go there would definitely be a big harvest. Thinking of this, Yu Fu left some pottery and white salt for the Lu tribe as a deposit, then led the team to continue south. They didn't have much time, had been out for nearly a month, at most half a month more to return. Time was urgent, heavy mission. In the following days, Yu Fu's team almost didn't rest. Going straight south, on the way they met quite a few tribes. But because they were all strong men, riding beasts, other tribes were afraid, avoiding them. No one dared to initiate conversation. Fortunately, this mighty team didn't stop, making those tribes sigh in relief. Just like that, moving fast forward. Finally, 11 days after leaving the Lu tribe, they reached the end of the road. But the end wasn't the sea, nor a large lake, but a cliff. The cliff was less than 50 meters high, but very steep. Standing on top of the cliff, one could clearly see a vast grassland. On it were countless herds of cattle, goats, horses, deer grazing. To the east there was also a very large lake. The lake water reflected the blue light of the sky and white clouds, making the lake water also sky blue. On the lake's surface were countless water birds. There were giant geese, blue-gray wild ducks, wings about 1 meter long. There were also long-legged cranes, slender. These water birds were catching fish, migrating upriver to breed. Just then in the sky, 2 giant eagles, a tuka, let out shrill cries. Yu Fu withdrew his gaze, saying to the team, "Today, temporarily rest here. Tomorrow, find a way down." The next day, under the guidance of the 2 eagles, Yu Fu found a valley to the west of the cliff, about over 40 miles away. From there, going south leads to the vast grassland. To reach the grassland took a whole day. The whole team didn't dare dismount, always on high alert, guarding against danger. Yu Fu even ordered, if anything untoward happens, abandon the ox carts and goods to escape, having considered the worst case. By evening, they met a nomadic tribe, the Tianyang tribe. This tribe had about 500 people, living mainly by raising livestock. When first met, women of the Tianyang tribe were holding baskets picking up cow dung and horse dung. These things, after drying, could be used as fuel for burning in winter. Men rode horses patrolling around the grazing area. Each person carried a short bow and over a dozen not-so-good arrows. These men all braided 2 pigtails, chested, only wrapping an animal skin or coarse wool cloth around their waist. Yu Fu just led people closer, and a dozen fierce sheepdogs rushed out, baring teeth and barking loudly, warning strangers not to approach. Very quickly, the warriors patrolling around noticed. They rode horses running fast over, drawing bows and knocking arrows from a distance of 50 or 60 meters facing Yu Fu's group. A warrior of the Tianyang tribe asked Yu Fu loudly, "Which tribe are you from? What are you doing here?" But the 2 sides stood quite far apart, with a dozen dogs barking loudly in between, and language barriers, so basically couldn't communicate. Yu Fu dismounted, tried stepping forward a few steps, raising both hands high, showing he carried no weapons. But the Tianyang tribe warrior was very vigilant, immediately shooting an arrow at Yu Fu's feet, warning him not to approach. Fortunately, Yu Fu had a lot of experience in communicating with tribes. He immediately told his subordinates to dismount, not to carry weapons, and take out a few large earthen pots to show them. The tribesmen quickly dismounted. 5 people held 5 large earthen pots. Stepping forward to stand next to Yu Fu continued to shout to the other side, "Friends, we come to trade. Do you want these earthen pots? If not, we are leaving," speaking while pointing at the earthen pots. The warriors of the Tianyang tribe heard this, and their eyes lit up. Red earthen pots, glazed white or dark red, sparkling under the sunset. Although they had never seen them, one glance, and they recognized these were treasures. The Tianyang tribe warrior reacted immediately, shouting to stop the pack of sheepdogs, riding large yellow horses charging toward Yu Fu, finally stopping in front of them. A young man who seemed to be the captain dismounted, preparing to communicate with Yu Fu. Yu Fu smiled, taking out a snakeskin water bag from his waist. pouring a little water into the earthen pot. The water sloshed in the pot, but didn't leak at all. The captain immediately understood the use of this thing. He knew the Tianyang tribe needed this kind of container very much. So he called a brother, handing the earthen pot to him, telling him to ride back to inform the leader. That person received the earthen pot, immediately spurring the horse to run toward the tribe's tent area. Before long, he found leader Ili beside the livestock pen. At this time, Ili was squatting there delivering a foal for a mare. The warrior hurriedly reported the situation he saw to the leader, then handed the earthen pot to him. Ili looked at the container in his hand, eyes flashing, showing interest. "Take me to see." Saying that, he immediately jumped onto a black horse, legs clamping the horse's belly tight, following the warrior galloping north. Going back and forth took about half an hour. The sun was about to set completely when Yu Fu and everyone started losing patience. From afar, two horses, one red, one black, carrying two people, galloped toward them, attracting everyone's attention. Ili curbed the horse, jumped down, walked to the captain's side, looking toward Yu Fu and the others. First, he assessed the strange attire of the other party, then looked at the various earthen pots in their hands. He had a calculation in his heart. He signaled his tribesmen to step back, then waved for Yu Fu and everyone to come closer. Yu Fu quickly led people over. Seeing everyone obeying Ili, he knew this was the leader, so he respectfully placed his hand on his chest and bowed. "Respected leader, we are a merchant team from the north wanting to trade with your tribe, using our goods to exchange for cattle, horses, and animal skins. Don't know if it's possible?" Saying that, he told the tribesmen to bring out a set of pottery, from large earthen pots to small porcelain bowls. There's also white salt, the most important thing. Then pointed in turn at the horses, cattle, and goats of the Tianyang tribe, signaling wanting to use these things to exchange. Ili immediately understood Yu Fu's meaning. He didn't answer immediately, but carefully examined each item. The exquisite pottery items made Ili extremely fond of them. He picked up a white porcelain bowl, imagining using it to drink milk, heart full of joy. Finally, when seeing a small bowl of white salt, he pointed suspiciously, signaling to ask. Yu Fu saw this, dipped a finger into a little salt, put in his mouth, signaling Ili to taste too. As expected, almost everyone who tasted the Han tribe's pure white salt for the first time was immediately conquered by its wonderful taste. Ili was no exception. After a while of speaking and gesturing, Ili knew Yu Fu still had many good goods like this, so he enthusiastically invited them to the Tianyang tribe's settlement as guests. At this time, the sun had set to the west. The sky was also getting dark. Yu Fu decided to stay here for a night, also to learn more about the situation of the tribes on the grassland, see what goods they needed most. That way, next time coming, could bring suitable goods. Everyone quickly arrived at the tribe's settlement. In the middle, where over a dozen large tents formed a circle, a bonfire had been lit. Ili waved his hand. Tribesmen immediately brought out clean goats, skewered them on racks to roast over the bonfire. Fat and tender goat meat, fresh and delicious under the licking flames sizzling, emitting an attractive aroma. Yu Fu also told his tribesmen to take out a few bowls of white salt, delivering to each bonfire. Girls of the Tianyang tribe curiously observed the Han tribe's merchant team. They spread animal skins, gathering around the bonfire. Everyone sat on the ground. Roasted goat meat was placed on the animal skins. Yu Fu and Ili sat next to each other. He even told his subordinate to take out a packet of chili powder, sprinkling it on the roasted goat meat, then adding white salt. The two ate deliciously. Ili hissed from the spiciness of the chili, but still didn't stop eating, praising it while eating. After that, Ili told tribesmen to bring goat milk and cow milk to treat Yu Fu. "Friend Yu Fu, your Han tribe's pottery is good. White salt is also good. Chili is even more wonderful. Must exchange a lot of these things for us." Ili used his meager Han vocabulary, stammering praise. "Leader Ili likes it. That's good. Rest assured, as long as your tribe has what we need, I believe our trade will definitely be extremely happy." Then the two began talking about trade prices. Yu Fu talked incessantly. "Look, your type of ox pulling carts. One can exchange for 2 earthen pots. If it's a cow, can exchange for 3. If using goats to exchange, then 2 goats exchange for 1 earthen pot. Or 1 goat exchanges for 2 large bowls. White salt can only be exchanged with horses. One horse can exchange for 5 bowls of white salt like this. As for other things like animal skins, we also need them. Even buffalo horns, buffalo tendons, buffalo hide can all be used to exchange for pottery. Actually, these prices were all arbitrarily made up by him. Moreover, set very high, this time going out to trade. Yu Fu's status was different. Now, he was a member of the Han tribe, having the responsibility to bring the most benefits to the tribe. Ili heard Yu Fu quote prices, couldn't help frowning, showing a pained look. The Han tribe's goods were truly good, but the prices were truly unbearable. Pottery was okay. After all, not a consumable item, but precious white salt could only be exchanged with horses. How many horses would be needed for the whole tribe to eat for a year? Just thinking about it made his gut hurt. Friend Yu Fu, other things are fine. Just white salt, if using all horses to exchange. We can't give all horses to you. Look, can we use cattle, goats to exchange? It's not impossible. But the number of horses must account for at least 40% of the total. Moreover, must be adult horses. Our Han tribe also needs horses very much. Otherwise, when I return, I don't know how to explain to the leader. Maybe next time he won't let me go anymore. At that time, you guys wanting to eat white salt will be difficult. All right, let's decide like that. Tomorrow, we will trade at this price. Ili thought for a while, feeling it was still acceptable. So he agreed. After discussing prices, dinner also gradually ended after the bonfire performance. When going to sleep, Ili shared 2 tents for the Han tribe's merchant team to stay, and called Yu Fu to his tent to sleep together. Yu Fu was a bit hesitant in his heart, but also reluctant to refuse, so reluctantly agreed. He carefully crawled into the fur blanket, but the next second he sprang up like a spring. 2 women with not a stitch of clothing on their bodies crawled into his blanket. One was Ili's wife. One was Ili's eldest daughter. At this moment, Yu Fu carefully crawled into the blanket, but unexpectedly right after, he sprang up from the bed. 2 naked women crawled into his blanket. One was Ili's wife. The other was Ili's eldest daughter. Ili hurriedly explained outside the tent. This is the custom of borrowing seed of the grassland people to improve the breed. When meeting strangers, they often do this. Yu Fu encountered this custom for the first time. Previously in the mountains, he only knew about the spring gathering to find a mate. However, he and the people in the merchant team had abstained for more than 6 months, facing women actively offering themselves. He immediately enjoyed it. Not only Yu Fu's tent, but the other 2 large tents for the Han tribe merchants were also arranged like that. Indescribable sounds rang out across the grassland, only gradually quieting down 2 hours later. The next day, Yu Fu and Ili completed the transaction. The Tianyang tribe of over 500 people bought about 100 pots, over 1,000 bowls, in exchange for 4 barrels of white salt. Even bought the barrels. Yu Fu harvested quite well. 50 bulls, cows, 550 white twisted horn sheep, 350 horses of various colors. Among them, mares were the majority. There were also quite a few cow hides, sheepskins, cow bones, cow tendons, etc. Such a big harvest made the whole merchant team boil with excitement. If they could bring this livestock back to the tribe safely, they would definitely be heavily rewarded by the leader, regarded as heroes by the tribesmen. Yu Fu was also very happy. However, the 2 carts of goods were only half sold. He planned to find 1 more nomadic tribe to sell the remaining goods. To reassure the leader, Yu Fu found 2 young men who wrote Han characters well, using charcoal to write on sheepskin what they had discovered, including the location of the freshwater lake and grassland, the situation of the nomadic tribe, details of this transaction, and the next plan. After that, he tied the sheepskin letter to Atuka's leg, a giant eagle, then released it to fly back to the tribe to report. Atuka was very sensitive to magnetic fields. Although the way back was very far, its flying speed was very fast. Delivering the message would take at most 2 days to arrive. After releasing the eagle, the merchant team continued on their way. They brought 2 ox carts, 40 zebras and moose, along with the newly bought herd of 950 cattle, horses, and sheep. With only 40 people, herding such a large livestock herd was very hard. Although Han tribesmen had herded horses in the tribe's pasture, they had never herded such a large livestock herd. Although these animals were domesticated, quite obedient, but due to few caretakers and no sheepdogs, The herd was frequently harassed by wolves and wild beasts. In just one day, the team lost over 20 sheep, although warriors were equipped with crossbows. Because they hadn't been trained in archery on horseback, they couldn't be fully effective. Facing harassment from wild beasts, they were completely helpless. The wild beasts were very cunning. Using guerrilla tactics, the warriors could only watch helplessly as sheep were dragged away. Quite a few people wanted to return. They felt they should bring the exchanged goods back to the tribe first. Continuing like this, losses would be even greater. Yufu heard everyone say this, and also started to hesitate. Looking at the crowded livestock herd and remaining goods, he sighed, deciding to go for one more day. If no other nomadic tribe was found, then they would return. Members of the team all agreed with this plan. By evening, everyone arrived at a lakeside spot, grass and trees lush, to let livestock eat and drink. Members of the team, except those riding horses guarding, took turns resting by the lake, replenishing food and water. They also shot waterbirds for dinner. At this time, not far away, a few strangers appeared. The leader was a young man about 17 or 18 years old, shirtless, muscles rippling, wearing a loincloth of animal skin, riding a roan horse. Long. He led 3 young women also riding horses, 2 of whom carried small children, along with dozens of sheepdogs, herding nearly 100 sheep. Lang also came to the lakeside to let the sheep drink water and hunt waterbirds. He didn't communicate with Yufu's group. Lang rode his horse running along the lake shore, drawing his bow to shoot at wild ducks flying low. Yufu's warriors saw Lang's arrow fly into the sky but missed the duck and laughed. But immediately after, a wild duck was hit by an arrow, screaming miserably. It turned out, Lang had calculated the duck's flight path precisely. The injured duck tried to glide. Several sheepdogs quickly chased after it, retrieving the duck for Lang, wagging tails and barking. This scene made the members of Yufu's merchant team extremely envious. Someone lamented, "Don't know when the little wolves our tribe raises will be trained as well as that." Another person analyzed, "Wolves and dogs are not the same. Dogs know how to wag tails, know how to bark. Wolves only know how to howl." Someone suggested trading with Lang, exchanging for a few dogs, thinking dogs could help guard livestock. Maybe could even breed with the tribe's wolves, creating a wolf dog breed. Yufu found it reasonable, so he told Yi to bring an earthen pot and a small bag of white salt to negotiate. Yi rode closer. Lang saw someone approaching and drew his bow in defense. Yi signaled, wanted to use the earthen pot and white salt to exchange for dogs. He even threw the salt bag to Lang. Lang caught the salt bag, opened it, looking at the white powder inside, face full of doubt. When he looked up, his pale red eyes startled Yi, but Yi quickly regained composure, signaling Lang to taste it. Lang hesitated a moment, letting the dog lick it first. Seeing the dog was fine, he also licked a little. Only then did he know it was salt, and smiled at Yi. The two used gestures to communicate. Yi learned Lang's name. Lang also understood they wanted to exchange for dogs. He also wanted to trade, but these dogs were all raised by him. Even if he agreed, they wouldn't follow strangers. This was common sense for grassland people. Lang helplessly threw the salt bag back to Yi, waving his hand, showing he couldn't trade. Yi returned empty-handed. Lang led the women and the sheep herd preparing to leave the campsite. Yi returned, recounting the situation to Yufu. Yufu frowned. It was getting dark. 40 of them had to guard nearly 1,000 cattle, horses and sheep, and without proper pens. Didn't know how many would be lost tonight. Yufu thought for a moment, snatched the salt bag from Yuye's hand, spurred his horse to chase after Lang's group. Lang heard hoofbeats and stopped. Yufu threw the salt bag to Lang, suggesting Lang bring the dogs to their place tonight to help guard the sheep herd. The salt would belong to Lang. Lang understood, happily agreeing. So the two groups gathered, finding a safe place to camp. They used ropes and large nets to make simple sheep pens, then drove cattle, horses, and sheep inside. Dinner, everyone ate together. They used the Han tribe's earthen pot to cook duck soup with added salt. Lang had never eaten this dish. His tribe didn't have earthen pots, nor much water to cook soup. Lang and the women learned how to use chopsticks to pick up meat. Drinking soup, they gradually got familiar with Yufu and the others, starting to use gestures to chat. Lang recounted he originally came from a large tribe, with 700 or 800 people. But because he was born with red eyes, he was considered ominous by the shaman in the tribe. Some wanted to kill him. Some wanted to drive him away. His mother was helpless, had to agree to his exile. At parting, she gave him 3 grown dogs, a small horse, and a few sheep, telling him not to go too far. Later, when he was herding the sheep, the old woman secretly gave him a few more. Just like that, Ling took those supplies and began a life of wandering. He became a man of the grasslands. Over the next few years, Ling taught himself to make bows and arrows. He developed extraordinary archery skills. He managed to capture a few wild horses. His flock of sheep grew to nearly 100. His dogs also multiplied, growing to a pack of over 30. When he felt he could support a family, Ling traded some of his sheep for 3 women from a few small tribes. Now, he had 2 children. Another one of his women was also pregnant. When Du Fu learned of Ling's story, he was moved. Ling was a native of this land. He knew the languages of many grassland tribes. His horsemanship skills and his archery were both excellent. To the Han tribe, he was a rare talent. Du Fu began trying to recruit Ling. He asked him what his plans were for the coming winter, especially with his wife being pregnant, and with his children still so young. Ling said he knew of a small forest. There were trees there for firewood, and bushes for his sheep to graze on. But Du Fu told him that the Han tribe had sturdy houses. They had plenty of food and water. It would be much safer to join the Han tribe. Ling suddenly became wary. He thought Du Fu wanted to steal his sheep and dogs. Du Fu chuckled, then shook his head. If he wanted sheep, he could trade for them with the larger tribes. The Han tribe also raised dogs, but not as many as Ling had, and they weren't as well trained as his. Ling saw the logic in that. He became curious about the Han tribe. He asked about its location, population, and the number of livestock they had. Du Fu said the Han tribe was to the north. In the mountains, it was over a month's ride on horseback. The entire tribe had nearly 3,000 people, besides the merchant caravan's animals. The tribe currently had a few hundred head of livestock. Ling was very surprised. 3,000 people with only a few hundred cattle and sheep would surely starve in the winter. He had seen tribes of several thousand people before. They all had tens of thousands of cattle and sheep. Du Fu explained. The Han tribe's cattle and horses were used for labor. They grew their own food. The food was the seed of a type of grass. When cooked, it could be eaten. The Han tribe also knew how to fish, and they raised other animals. They were not short on meat. The chief of the Han tribe was very intelligent. He taught everyone how to craft things, how to farm, and how to raise animals. Ling listened, but didn't quite understand, especially the part about growing food. Manhwa grass suts. To him, it was unbelievable. Du Fu knew Ling wouldn't understand. Coincidentally, the merchant caravan had brought food with them. He had someone bring out half a sack of rice. Then he took a handful of unhusked grains and gave them to Ling. This is what we eat. Once you remove the husk, it's rice. It's delicious when cooked. Tomorrow, I'll cook some for you to try. Ling took the grains. He held them up to the firelight, observing them closely. He thought this was food for livestock. He found it hard to believe that humans could eat it. Ling said he had seen this type of grass on the plains before. They grew in dry places. They could grow up to waist high. They had ears at the top, and they produced seeds. Cattle and sheep loved to eat them. Their ears also had small barbs. Du Fu was very surprised. He thought what Ling was describing might be a grain crop similar to paddy rice. If it could be grown in dry soil, it would be incredibly important to the Han tribe. Du Fu excitedly grabe Ling. He asked if he could lead him to find that grass. He said if they found it, he would give him a great deal of white salt and pottery. Ling was tempted. This type of grass was very common on the plains. It was easy to find, so he agreed immediately. The next morning, Du Fu had his men cook porridge. He also had a special meal of rice cooked for Ling's family. Ling also woke up early. He was sharpening an arrowhead with a wolf's tooth and fletching an arrow. Seeing this, Du Fu took out one of the Han tribe's bronze arrowheads and gave it to Ling. Ling took the arrowhead. He loved it and couldn't put it down. He found the material of the arrowhead very strange. His own arrowheads were made from tree branches. The tips were made of bone. The quality was far inferior to this one. Ling praised the Han tribe's arrowheads. He asked what they were made of. Du Fu said it was an invention of their chief. The arrowheads were made of bronze. The entire tribe used these kinds of weapons. He even emptied his quiver to show Ling all his arrows. He told Ling to try his longbow. Ling tried it, and found that the longbow's range was much greater than his own. Du Fu then mentioned that the chief was developing a shorter, more powerful bow. If Ling joined the tribe, he would be given one. Hearing this, Ling excitedly asked if it was true. Du Fu confirmed it. He also said the Han tribe did not discriminate against outsiders. He himself was once the chief of a small tribe. He had only joined with his people a few months ago. The two of them had breakfast together. Ling and his women ate white rice with wild duck meat. The other members of the Han tribe ate porridge. Ling tasted the rice. He couldn't stop praising how delicious it was. He couldn't believe these were the seeds of grass. Du Fu explained. Grain was easy to obtain. The seed from a single plant were enough for one meal. The leaves and stalks could even be fed to livestock. Nothing was wasted. Ling thought this was indeed a good way to get food. After breakfast, the group set out to find other nomadic tribes to trade with. At the same time, they searched for the plant Ling had mentioned. His wife and children were riding in an ox cart. The wild horses had been fitted with saddles and bridles. Ling was an excellent rider. With the help of the saddle and bridle, the wild horse ran even faster. Ling experienced the advantages of riding this way. Not only was it less tiring, but he could also perform many tactical maneuvers. It would be very useful on a battlefield. Ling thought that if the Han tribe had good short bows, and also this riding equipment, they could definitely build a powerful cavalry force. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that joining the Han tribe was the right choice. After discussing it with his wives, Ling decided to lead his entire family to join the Han tribe. He told Du Fu about his decision. Du Fu was overjoyed. He said, "Our chief is very good at using people's talents. Someone with your skills will definitely be highly valued. You could even become a captain." Ling was very excited to hear that. The group continued on their way, led by Ling. That morning, they traveled several dozen kilometers. By noon, they had found wheat on the grasslands. Du Fu confirmed that these were grain seeds. Although he couldn't tell if it was barley or wheat, it didn't matter. Within one season, they could grind it into flour. A little experimentation would tell them what it was. They stopped for 2 hours. They collected 2 large sacks of wheat ears. They also dug up a few intact wheat plants. They planted them in a clay pot. They planned to bring them back for Han Feng to study. After that, the group continued on their way. By evening, they encountered the Nyogu tribe. The chief of the Nyogu tribe was named Ertai. He was an acquaintance of Ling's. With Ling's introduction, Du Fu and Ertai began to trade. At the same time, after a 2-day flight, Asuka had returned to the Han tribe. Inyu saw it. He immediately called it down. He discovered the sheepskin letter tied to its leg. He hurriedly brought it to Han Feng. Han Feng nervously took the sheepskin scroll. He guessed that Du Fu and the others might have found sheep and already made a trade. He opened the letter. Although there were many spelling errors, Han Feng could still understand the content. The letter said they had traveled south for over a month. They had reached a flatland. There were freshwater lakes and grasslands. They met a nomadic tribe. They used pottery and salt to trade for a lot of livestock. They still had half of their goods left. They wanted to find more tribes to trade with. They would return after they finished trading. He told Han Feng to prepare hay and pins for the winter. Han Feng's hands trembled with excitement. He never expected Du Fu and the others to have such a huge harvest. The high-ranking leaders of the tribe heard the news. They all gathered around Han Feng. Seeing him staring at the letter, his hands shaking, they thought something terrible had happened to Du Fu. Han Feng joyfully announced, "Du Fu and the others have found a grassland. They've traded for nearly 1,000 head of livestock. From now on, our tribe will not lack cattle or horses for labor. We also won't be short of sheep for meat." When everyone heard this, they were all overjoyed. Han Feng ordered the sheepskin letter to be hung on the flagpole so that all the tribe members would know the good news. He also decided to hold a celebration that night. Han Feng assigned the next tasks. The construction team must first enclose the livestock area with a fence. Then, they were to continue building houses. Many people were reassigned to the gathering team to gather hemp, chestnuts, and tree seeds, and so on. Han Feng also decided to buy straw from other tribes for livestock feed. They would trade for it with pottery or white salt. Although the price was cheap, the Han tribe had to send their own carts to transport it. If they didn't have enough carts, they would build more. They even wove carts from tree branches. Although it was hard work, everyone was happy, because they knew they were preparing for the livestock. On Du Fu's side, the trading was also going very smoothly. Thanks to Ling's help, he traded for another 1,000 head of livestock from Ertai's tribe. This time, Du Fu traded for fewer sheep. He mainly got 200 cattle and 400 horses. He also bought an additional 400 sheep, worried that managing the large herd would be too difficult. Du Fu also spent a large sum to buy 10 young women who knew how to ride horses. They would herd the livestock. By now, the merchant caravan's goods were almost all sold. Only a barrel of white salt and about 100 pieces of pottery remained. They planned to trade with the small tribes in the mountains on their way back. The trading on the grasslands was over. The entire group began their journey home. 2 days later, on the mountain path between the grasslands and the mountains, the merchant caravan received Han Feng's reply. It was delivered by an eagle. The content of the letter was very simple. Be safe, sell all the goods, and return quickly. Du Fu was very happy. He was very interested in using eagles and Han characters to send messages. He planned to learn more Han characters from Han Feng after he returned. He had an idea. He wrote a letter back to Han Feng. This time, he didn't write any words. Instead, he wrapped an intact bundle of wheat in animal hide. He tied it to the eagle's leg and released it. The group continued on their way. The merchant caravan originally had only 40 people. On their return, there were 56. They were also bringing back 2,000 cattle, horses, and sheep. The huge herd moved along the mountain path. The noise was deafening. The grass and trees along the road were eaten clean. They left behind a lot of manure. 2 days later, Han Feng received another letter delivered by the eagle. He thought Du Fu was in trouble and needed help. He opened it to see a bundle of wheat. He was overjoyed beyond words. The high-ranking leaders of the tribe gathered around. The great uncle asked, "What kind of plant is this?" Han Feng introduced it. "This is wheat. Not only can it be cooked into porridge, but after being ground into flour, it can be used to make many other things, like noodles, buns, dumplings, steamed buns, fried buns, and so on. Moreover, wheat doesn't need to be planted in water. It just needs a few ditches for irrigation. However, its yield is not as high as paddy rice. Next year, we can try planting some." Everyone listened to Han Feng's introduction. They felt like he was some kind of monster, to be able to name so many ways to prepare wheat just by seeing it for the first time. The elder saw that Han Feng had changed so much. He suspected he was a god or was guided by the gods, but everyone just regarded him as a divine person. They followed his arrangements. Han Feng put the wheat away. He prepared for next year's harvest. He wrote a reply to Du Fu. He told him to collect more wheat seeds. Before winter came, they must return to the tribe. Du Fu received the letter. He immediately picked up the pace. A few days later, they approached the Lu tribe. They were ready to pick up the 60 pigs they had pre-ordered. Du Fu had been away from the Lu tribe for nearly a month. The chief of the Lu tribe thought they had met with misfortune and wouldn't be able to return. A tribe member reported. Du Fu had returned, and he brought with him thousands of livestock. The chief was both surprised and envious. He worried that the Han tribe would no longer trade for their pigs in the future, or that they would drive down the price. Du Fu didn't give the Lu tribe time to think. The massive herd of livestock passed by. They only stopped to unload half a barrel of white salt and some pottery from the ox cart. They collected their 60 pigs and left immediately. Du Fu and his group returned much faster than they had left. The small tribes wanted to trade for livestock or hides. The livestock was not for sale. Du Fu only sold a few hides. Time flew by. It was now late autumn, early winter. Du Fu and his group were about to arrive back at the Han tribe. This round trip, took 3 months. The construction at the Han tribe had also progressed rapidly. The 2 livestock pens were completed. The second warehouse was also finished. It was used to store hay and salted fish. They also dug a cellar to store silage for the pigs. The fence for the livestock area was up. Simple sheds were also built. The star-shaped blast furnace in the smelting area was also completed. 2 copper smelting furnaces, an iron smelting furnace, a heavy-duty crane, and other equipment were also ready. Han Feng also worked with the carpentry team to research new molds and casting equipment to mass-produce iron pots. Winter was approaching. The Han tribe was well prepared. The city wall continued to be built. The fields on the east bank were also being prepared for conversion into paddy fields. But just before winter arrived, as the tribe members were busy working, they suddenly heard a loud noise in the distance. Like thunder, the ground shook. Everyone was frightened. They hid in their stone houses. But Han Feng smiled. He knew that the great contributors to the tribe had returned. At that moment, Du Fu led the merchant caravan, laden with spoils, back to the Han tribe. The tribe members saw them and all cheered. They ran to welcome them. The scene was incredibly lively. It was like welcoming victorious heroes home. When Du Fu and the others saw people coming from the tribe to greet them, they also excitedly picked up their pace. When they got closer, Du Fu jumped off his horse and hugged Han Feng tightly. The other members also embraced their fellow tribe members, sharing their joy. "Chief, we're back. We had a huge harvest this time. Look at all this livestock, and there are many of the good things too." Du Fu excitedly showed Han Feng the livestock he had traded for. "Huh, excellent. You've all worked hard. This time, you have truly performed a great service. Take the livestock to their new homes first. Then we'll have a celebratory feast." Han Feng smiled brightly and patted Du Fu on the shoulder. After that, the entire Han tribe was immersed in a joyous atmosphere. Everyone slaughtered livestock. They held a grand feast. During the feast, Du Fu introduced Ling and his family to Han Feng, along with the 10 young women from the Ertai tribe. Du Fu also specifically emphasized Ling's skills. Hearing that Ling was skilled in horsemanship and archery, Han Feng immediately had the idea of keeping him. Han Feng bestowed a new name upon Ling, Lang Feng. From now on, Lang Feng would be responsible for teaching his skills to the other tribe members. After Du Fu translated for him, an emotional Lang Feng knelt on one knee before Han Feng. He expressed his loyalty. "I will not disappoint the chief. I will strive to contribute to the Han tribe." The 10 grassland girls were assigned a house. They were put in charge of looking after the livestock in the pens. The Shu was tasked with showing them to their house, distributing daily necessities, and teaching them how to use the house, how to light the stove, how to cook. Lang Feng led his family along the brick-paved road in the settlement. Looking at the tall warehouses and neat houses, he felt as if he had entered a paradise. This was what a civilized life was truly like. After hearing the Shu's introduction, that everything here was taught to the people by the chief, Lang Feng's admiration for Han Feng grew even stronger. Although the chief was younger than him, he could manage thousands of people, and their lives were so prosperous. If it were him, he definitely couldn't do it. Lang Feng's family was quickly brought to an empty house. The tribe members enthusiastically came to help. Someone brought a water vat, a water bucket, and pottery. A neighbor woman came with hides and helped spread them on the bed. A man used a wheelbarrow to bring 2 sacks of rice from the warehouse. Someone else brought firewood with an ox cart. All the necessary tools were also brought over. Han Feng returned. He told Xiao Dai to bring hemp cloth and woolen cloth for Lang Feng's family. It was something he had prepared for their children. Although the new life had many good things, there were also some inconveniences. For example, the sheep, horses, and sheepdogs belonging to Lang Feng were all confiscated for public use. This was a problem. It was one thing for them to be confiscated, but Lang Feng was very familiar with his horses. Now that he couldn't see them every day, Lang Feng felt very upset. Han Feng had also thought about this, but horses couldn't be raised in the residential area. He also couldn't assign horses to individuals. Therefore, Han Feng could only promise Lang Feng that whenever he had free time, he could go to the livestock area to visit his horses. Another problem was the sheepdogs. These dogs only listened to their master. They kept running around and coming to Lang Feng's house. Han Feng didn't know what to do either. He could only tell Lang Feng to watch them carefully and not let them bite anyone. It would be best to find a way to get them to the livestock area. However, getting used to a new environment takes time. Winter was long. Han Feng didn't have time to deal with these trivial matters. He had many more important things to do. The iron pot mold that the carpentry team had been researching was completed. On the first day of winter, the market was empty. Han Feng began to lead the tribe members in smelting iron. De Chue stood by his side. Han Feng wanted to teach him the entire process. He demonstrated it once. Then he handed it over to the tribe members. Dozens of people were directly involved in smelting iron, and there were over 100 helpers. Each furnace could produce about 2 tons, besides 2 anvils weighing hundreds of pounds. The rest was used to cast iron pots. In the end, they produced a total of nearly 200 large and small pots. It still wasn't enough for the Han tribe's use, but everyone had worked hard all day, so they had to stop. Han Feng instructed the tribe members to continue grinding the iron pots. Then he told the Chue, after the furnace has completely cooled, you must carefully inspect all the parts. If anything is damaged, it must be repaired immediately to avoid any accidents next time. Dashui apilia agreed. After smelting iron all day, Han Feng also felt tired and went for a walk alone. He leisurely walked to the bank of the river that supplied the water. In early winter, the river's water level had dropped, but the watermill on the riverbank was still turning. It was just turning slower than before due to the low water level. In a month at most, the river would freeze over. At that time, the watermill would be unusable. A cold north wind blew, making Han Feng shiver. He quickly pulled his animal hide coat tighter. At that moment, an idea suddenly struck him. In winter, although the water freezes, the wind is very strong. If he built a windmill, it could still operate in the winter. Moreover, it was a natural source of energy, available year-round. It was even more convenient than water. At least he wouldn't have to worry about where to place the mill. With this idea, Han Feng immediately ran to the carpentry team. He found 2 long poles. He tied them together in a cross shape with rope. Then he used vines to weave 4 square frames. After that, he had someone bring 4 sacks from the warehouse. He wrapped them around the vine frames, creating 4 sails. Mu Yong and Mu Du watched Han Feng's strange actions. They knew the chief was making something new again, but they still didn't understand the purpose of this strange thing. It wasn't until Han Feng placed the cross-shaped sail frame on a horizontal support, with the 4 sails facing north, that under the force of the wind, it began to spin rapidly. Everyone in the carpentry team stared with wide eyes. Mu Yong was the first to understand Han Feng's intention. Chief, do you want to attach this to a machine? To make something like the watermill? Han Feng smiled and nodded. I'll figure out the detailed method soon. At that time, you'll be in charge of building the windmill. If we can build it, it will surely be even better than the watermill. That's true. If we don't consider the weather factor, a windmill has many advantages over a watermill. Plus, we don't have to worry about where to put it. Mudu also analyzed. All right, everyone continue with your work. I need to think about how to build this. I'll let you know when I've figured it out. After saying that, Han Feng returned home. Han Feng lay on his warm bed. The house was quite dark. The windows and doors were temporarily covered. The door was made of wooden planks. The window was an animal hide stretched over a vine frame. It completely blocked out the light. The Han tribe didn't have paper yet. Making a transparent window was difficult. Han Feng sighed. The days ahead were still long. There was still so much to do. A few days later, Han Feng led the metallurgy team to smelt 2 more furnaces of iron. They used up all the raw materials they had stockpiled over the past few months. However, they also obtained a large number of iron ingots. There were also some steel ingots made using the steel pouring method. The number of iron pots was now sufficient. After meeting the needs of the Han tribe, there were still a few dozen iron pots left in reserve or for trade. The remaining iron was cast into ingots. They were stored away. For now, research on iron was put on hold. Han Feng quickly went to the carpentry team. Together, they spent a few days making a person-sized model of a windmill. Next, the tribe members just needed to scale up this model and build it. A new project was launched, but the Han tribe's carpentry team was short-staffed. So, he began to recruit more carpenters to produce more wooden goods. In addition, now that they had iron, he also began to select blacksmiths. The training of technical talent in the Han tribe was gradually being implemented. The Han tribe currently had no blacksmiths. So the first group was personally instructed by Han Feng. The forge was quickly built next to the blast furnace. It was a shed built with bricks and logs. The blacksmith apprentices were also present. They were a few of the wild men who had previously joined the Han tribe. Among them was Zi, the man whose hand Han Feng had healed. He later learned copper smelting from De Chue. Now, he was learning blacksmithing from Han Feng. Since they had iron and steel, Han Feng decided to first forge a sword for himself. At the same time, he would let the apprentices observe and learn. The sword Han Feng wanted to make was a typical 8-sided Han Dynasty sword. The entire blade had 8 faces. The biggest feature of this type of sword is that it is quite thick. It can be used for both thrusting and slashing. Moreover, it is very flexible and not easy to break. Han Feng personally selected an iron ingot. He placed it in the forge. The apprentice next to him immediately worked the bellows to heat the iron ingot until it was soft. After heating for a while, he used tongs to take out the iron ingot. He placed it on the anvil and began to forge. As Han Feng forged, he explained the process to the apprentices. Then came folding, shaping, quenching, and finally assembly. The sword hilt was made from the only elephant tusk in the Han tribe. It was the tusk that the ape had pulled from the tiger's mouth. The sword hilt was oval-shaped. It was hollow inside. The outside was carved with patterns. It was a treasure sword symbolizing the chief's status. This sword also had a very impressive name. Tianzi knew, the wrath of the Son of Heaven. When the Son of Heaven is angry, 1,000,000 people die. It symbolized absolute power. The power to decide the life and death of the people. The tribe members had only heard that iron weapons were better than bronze, but they had never seen it with their own eyes. Han Feng took out Tianzi Nu to demonstrate for them. He had someone bring 2 bricks. He placed the sword on top of them. Then he stood on the sword himself. The sword bent into a large arc. But when Han Feng jumped off, the sword returned to its original shape. This astonished all the onlookers. Their jaws dropped. Next was the test of sharpness. Han Feng had someone bring a sheep. With a flash of the sword, the sheep's head fell to the ground. Blood spurted 5 paces away. Once again, the onlookers were amazed. A sheep with such thick wool was still beheaded with a single strike. If it were a person, the death would surely be even more gruesome. Chief, how can this sword be so powerful? If each of our warriors had one man could surely defeat 10. The great uncle said in amazement. That's right, Chief. Can we also have a sword like that? The Shu also asked covetously. This was what everyone was most concerned about. Such a fine weapon. It could be called a divine weapon. Who wouldn't want one? I don't think so. I saw the chief lead a few people, and it took them a whole month to make this one sword. If the whole tribe used this kind of sword, when would they ever finish making them? The elder, who had witnessed the entire process of Han Feng forging the sword, poured a bucket of cold water on everyone's hopes. That's right. Swords are indeed difficult to make, but those who were once chiefs will also get one. As for the ordinary warriors, we can only equip them with sabers. It's a weapon with only one cutting edge. Other tribe members who perform great deeds will be rewarded with a treasured sword. However, don't look down on sabers. I had someone make a ring pommel saber. You can all take a look. Its quality is in no way inferior to a sword. It just has one less cutting edge. Moreover, for those who don't know how to use a sword, a saber is even safer, because a sword has 2 edges. If you don't use it well, it's very easy to injure yourself. Bring out the ring pommel saber we made. Show it to everyone. The tribe members quickly took the ring pommel saber. They tested it in the same way Han Feng had. The result was just as Han Feng had said. The ring pommel saber was in no way inferior to the Han sword. It even had an advantage in terms of chopping power. Some people even preferred the ring pommel saber. The first month of winter passed. The Han tribe had only managed to make 1 saber and 1 sword. Other construction projects were not neglected. For example, the rammed earth city wall. After months of effort, it had finally reached the finishing stage. The city wall was 7.5 meters high. On top was a 1.3 meter high parapet. It was used to protect the warriors on the wall. Above the city gate was a 10-meter high watchtower. Inside were 2 winches used to raise and lower the drawbridge. On both sides of the city gate were wall-hugging staircases. They were 1.2 meters wide, enough for 2 people to walk side by side. This allowed warriors to quickly ascend and descend the city wall. The completion of the city wall made Han Feng very happy. The tall and imposing wall gave the tribe members a sense of security. Everyone cheered. They were overjoyed. To live in such a fortified city made them feel extremely proud and happy. No worries about food. No worries about clothing. No fear of enemies. In this era, this was truly a heavenly life. Finally, Han Feng found Lu Zi. Together, they made 8 large bricks. On them were carved the Han characters for Hanyang in raised seal script. These 8 bricks were placed above the 4 city gates. That was the name of the first city of the Han tribe, Hanyang City. This symbolized that the Han tribe was like the rising sun. It would grow stronger and more powerful day by day. A dozen or so days later, it was the middle of the 2nd month of winter. Han Feng assigned a new task to the more than 200 slaves to continue building warehouses and a livestock area. Although it was already very cold, Han Feng showed no mercy to these cannibals. After all, they were slaves. It would be a waste to feed them and not use them. Although he made them do hard labor, Han Feng did not cut back on their welfare. Each slave had enough animal hides to wear. They were fed 3 meals a day. White salt was also provided in sufficient quantities. Although they didn't get to eat much meat, meat broth was provided freely. In the cold winter, to be able to drink a bowl of hot meat broth was also a form of happiness. In their former cannibal tribe, they had never enjoyed such a thing. Therefore, this group of slaves was quite obedient. They worked obediently to get their meals. If they didn't work, they would be beaten. Trying to escape was also impossible, especially after they had personally built the city wall. Each city gate had guards. Even if their legs weren't shackled, they couldn't escape. This tall and imposing city wall was a shelter from the wind and cold for the Han tribe members. But for the slaves, it was a sturdy prison. A month and a half passed. The windmills the carpenters were working on were nearly finished. They had made 2 sets. The first windmill house was built next to the blast furnace. 2 windmills were installed on top of it. One was used to provide power for the blacksmith's bellows. The other was used to power the stone grinder, so the Han tribe could continue crushing or during the winter. The windmills operated stably for 2 days, without any issues. After the test run, Han Feng immediately ordered the continued construction of windmills. This time it was still 2 sets of windmills, but they were for the carpenters. That was also the Han tribe's wood processing workshop. Thanks to the power of the windmills, they built several wind-powered sawmills, significantly increasing the speed of wood production. The houses of the Han tribe still lacked doors and windows, because no one had the time to saw that much wood. After the wood processing workshop was completed, with an abundant supply of wood, whether it was making furniture, decorating houses, building boats, building carts, or creating wooden machinery, the Han tribe could produce them quickly. Han Feng instructed the blacksmiths to make saw blades, and guided the carpenters on how to build the sawing machines. Han Feng then started working on something else. That was building an oil press. The Han tribe currently had many oil-bearing seeds, but they still lacked the pressing equipment for production. There were more and more wooden goods, but the tung oil needed for varnish was still missing. Therefore, building an oil press became urgent. The process of pressing vegetable oil is basically the same. First, grind the oil seeds into powder. Then roast it. After that, wrap the roasted powder in cloth or grass. Finally, use pressure to extract the oil. The oil press was placed in a new warehouse built by the slaves, named the Oil Workshop by Han Feng. The oil workshop was divided into 3 areas, each area specializing in processing one type of oil: peanut oil, tung oil, and lacquer oil. The structure of the oil press was also very simple. First, use bronze to cast a cylindrical tube. The bottom has a hole with a diameter of 40 centimeters. Then, use a large log to make a press hammer. Lever style, it can be raised and lowered using ropes and pulleys. Bricks can also be hung on the hammer to increase the weight, helping the oil presser adjust the pressure. At the end of the 2nd month of winter, while Han Feng was guiding the clansmen in building the oil pressing equipment, heavy snow began to fall again. It snowed for the entire day. The snow on the square in the city was a foot deep. Such heavy snow was fine for the well-prepared Han tribe, but for the small tribes, it was a difficult challenge. Lack of food, lack of fuel, forced them to go outside. In previous years, when facing this situation, they would usually go hunting to survive. But this winter, they had another option. That was the Han tribe's market. Although they didn't know if the market was open in winter, they would only know if they went there. Perhaps that would be their chance for survival. Speaking of the Han tribe's market, since Han Feng decided to use animal skins as a common currency, the Han tribe currently had a large stockpile of furs. After meeting the clothing needs of the clansmen, the Han tribe used the surplus skins to make cowhide drums. Last spring, during the sacrificial ceremony, there was only 1 cowhide drum. Now, there were 8 drums of the same size. They were placed on both sides of the 4 city gates, used as alarm tools for defense. The 4 city gates had over a dozen warriors guarding them. For people at each gate, 2 people kept warm by the fire in the watchtower, and 2 people patrolled the city walls. They would rotate shifts every so often. On the 7th day after the 2nd snowstorm of winter, while Han Feng was instructing De Ji on casting large iron pots for the oil workshop, the large drum at the south gate of the Han tribe suddenly rang out. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of the drum echoed throughout Hanyang City. Right at that moment, the large drum on the South Gate watchtower suddenly sounded. The drumbeat resonated through Hanyang City. Han Feng was startled. He thought to himself, what is happening? But after listening carefully, he realized only one side of the drum was being beaten, and he instantly breathed a sigh of relief. Each gate of Hanyang City had 2 drums. When attacked by enemies, both drums would be beaten at the same time. If only a few people approached the city walls, and it was determined they were not enemies, then only one drum would be beaten. This was a rule that Han Feng had established earlier. Therefore, just by listening to the drums, one could judge the situation outside. Han Feng gave the Chue a few instructions. He grabbed his treasured sword and ran straight to the south gate. The warrior on guard saw the chief arrive. He quickly reported what he had seen. Han Feng peeked his head out to look. The few people below the wall weren't carrying anything. Although he was a bit suspicious, he still ordered the city gate to be opened. The warriors heard the order. They quickly turned the winch. They lowered the drawbridge. Then they followed Han Feng down the city wall. The 8 people outside the city were warriors from a small tribe. They had less than 100 people. They had been to the Han tribe's market before. But because the prices were too high, and they didn't have many animal hides, nor did they have any special products that Han Feng liked, they had never traded. But now, their tribe's food reserves were depleted. They only had enough for 1 month. They had planned to go hunting, to catch hibernating animals to eat. But an unexpected heavy snow fell. It covered the ground in white. This left them with no choice but to come to the Han tribe to try their luck. At this time, Han Feng led 4 warriors armed with bronze spears. He opened the city gate. He carefully observed the 8 people outside. They wore tattered animal hide clothes. Their noses and ears were red from the cold. Their hands and feet were covered in sores from frostbite. Although they held stone spears, they stood trembling at the other end of the bridge. Han Feng waved his hand. He signaled for them to come inside. The 8 men tentatively stepped onto the drawbridge. As requested by Han Feng, they surrendered their weapons. Then, they were taken to an empty house. Each person was given a bowl of meat broth originally intended for the slaves. Han Feng began to question them. You said you came to trade. Trade what? Did you bring anything valuable to trade? The leader of the group said, Chief of the Han tribe, our tribe is about to run out of food. We want to borrow some from the Han tribe. Next year, when we have game, we will pay it back. Han Feng likit. Borrow? How could you possibly pay it back? Are you kidding? Borrowing is out of the question. But I'm not unwilling to help you. How about this? You still have people, don't you? If your tribe can't feed them, then just give them to our Han tribe. We will trade you some food for them. This way, you'll reduce the burden on your tribe, and you'll have more food reserves. The leader heard this. He hesitated. He had never thought the Han tribe would propose such a solution. This situation, before they left, they hadn't discussed it. So for a moment, he didn't know how to answer. Of course, if your tribe members don't want to be separated, I have an even better way. That is for your entire tribe to join the Han tribe. As long as you become members of the Han tribe, you will enjoy the same treatment as everyone else. You can go back and discuss it with your tribe members. If you agree, you can move here immediately. This we can't decide on our own. We will go back and report to our chief. Whether the chief agrees or not, I don't know. However, I myself would very much like to stay in the Han tribe. It's really good here. I will definitely tell my tribe members about the Han tribe. I believe they will like it too. Very well, then I won't keep you any longer. I hope you will make the right choice. If you agree to come, the Han tribe will always welcome you. After finishing the conversation, Han Feng stood up to see his guests out. The guards quickly escorted the 8 men outside. Han Feng turned around. He went back to the Chue's place to watch them cast the iron pot. As for those few people, Han Feng didn't pay them any mind. Such a small number of people, he didn't consider them significant. In the following days, the Han tribe continued its construction. The equipment for the oil workshop was also quickly completed. Han Feng led the tribe members to start pressing tung oil. The freshly pressed tung oil, at a glance, looked no different from soybean oil. This type of tung oil is called raw tung oil. It can be used as lamp oil, but if you want to use it as varnish, it's best to use cooked tung oil. Cooked tung oil is made by boiling raw tung oil with pine resin. The finished product is thicker. It has a deep amber color. It is the best natural varnish for wooden furniture. The advent of tung oil solved the Han tribe's lighting problem. Although the oil lamps were not very bright, it was a huge step forward. Before, the Han tribe had transparent windows. Having an oil lamp in the house brought great convenience. Now at night, the Han tribe was no longer shrouded in darkness. While Han Feng was showing off the oil lamps in the tribe, the few people who had come to ask for food earlier had returned. Their tribe members were waiting anxiously, seeing them return empty-handed. They all showed their disappointment. They had been on a diet, eating only once every 2 days. Life was extremely difficult. Many people, to conserve energy, lay listlessly in their earthen huts, not moving, like hibernating animals, hoping the cold winter would pass quickly. Why couldn't you borrow any food? Did the Han tribe refuse? Or did you not find the Han tribe? The chief asked the 8 men who had just returned. Chief, we found the Han tribe, but they wouldn't lend us any food. They said we could all join the Han tribe. Then we would have more food than we could eat. Then the captain recounted what he had seen and heard of the Han tribe, but he concealed the fact that Han Feng had suggested trading people for food. This was something the 8 men had agreed upon on their way back. They were the main labor force and indispensable to the tribe. If they were to be traded with the Han tribe, it was very likely that the women and children would be traded away. This was something they did not want to see. Joining the Han tribe was better than being separated from their wives and children. Therefore, to avoid the tragedy of their families being broken apart, they decided to keep this matter a secret. After the chief heard this, he was extremely shocked. Then, he felt that the Han tribe were not good people. They clearly had surplus food, yet they used it to force other tribes to join them. The result was clear. The chief did not agree to the Han tribe's unreasonable condition. He believed that his tribe would rather suffer a little more. They were determined not to be coerced by the Han tribe. The chief's decision quickly spread throughout the tribe. Moreover, the already meager rations, from 1 meal a day, were now reduced to 1 meal every 2 days. They also had to go out and search for food in the cold weather. This made the tribe members dissatisfied. Life was already difficult. Now it was even more miserable, although no one dared to speak out against the chief. Everyone was resentful in their hearts. The chief thought everything would be fine, but what he didn't expect was a mass desertion. The 8 men who had been to the Han tribe, upon returning to their tribe, told everyone about what they had seen and heard there, along with the benefits of joining the Han tribe. This made everyone long for it. Therefore, under the arrangement of the 8 men, they quickly gathered a group of people who wanted to go with them to the Han tribe. One night, when everyone was fast asleep, nearly half the tribe quietly woke up. Following the other 8, they fled to the Han tribe. 42 men and women trudged through the snow. Among this group were a few innocent children. They had originally been abandoned by the tribe. Now, they had a hope of survival. They didn't dare to light torches for fear of being discovered by the tribe. They also didn't bring much food. The little food they had was prioritized for the children. These were the people who couldn't bear to abandon their children. The tribe's food was managed by the chief and his trusted followers. This group of people couldn't steal any food. So every day, they had to go out and search for it, and they would hide it outside the tribe. It took several days of saving up before they had enough food to escape. The group braved the wind and snow, walking for half the night. It wasn't until the next morning. They hadn't eaten their fill to begin with. Their strength was dwindling even more. They shared their food with the children. Then they continued their journey. They believed the chief would surely be furious. They were also worried the chief would send people after them. Fortunately, the falling snow had covered their tracks. This gave them some peace of mind. They walked like this for another day. These people were on the verge of collapsing from exhaustion. No fire for warmth. No hot food to eat. Finally, they decided to send 2 people to the Han tribe to ask for help. The rest would stay put. They would try to build a fire for warmth and search for food nearby. They were determined to survive. They waited for a whole week. 5 days later, the 2 who went for help finally arrived at the foot of the Han tribe city. They had to endure the cold all night at the city gate. It wasn't until the next morning that the guards on duty discovered them. When Han Feng received the news, he had the city gate open to bring the 2 men in. One of them had already frozen to death and was unconscious. The other, after much effort, managed to explain the situation. He said that there were 40 more people outside who wanted to join the Han tribe and were suffering from hunger and cold. Han Feng immediately ordered a rescue mission. 5 simple sleds were hastily built. 20 cavalrymen carrying animal hides. food, and iron pots, along with the conscious man to guide them, were led by Du Fu. They quickly set out. It took the rescue team 2 days to reach the place where the others were waiting. But it was too late. Of the 40 people, 5 had already frozen to death. The rest were also on the brink of death. The entire group was emaciated. They were listless. They had even resorted to eating the animal hides they used for warmth. The few nursing children had survived by drinking their mother's blood. Due to prolonged lack of food, the mothers no longer had any milk. The heartbreaking scene moved the Han tribe members who came to rescue them. Du Fu immediately ordered them to set up the iron pots. They cooked salted meat with rice for them to eat. The animal hides they brought were also distributed to them. After a day of care, these people gradually recovered. Then, with the help of the rescue team, they buried the dead on the spot. All the survivors were placed on the sleds. The rescue team pulled them back to the Han tribe. The story of these people quickly spread throughout the Han tribe. Everyone felt sympathy for them. At the same time, they also felt lucky to be members of the Han tribe, to be living the good life that the chief had brought them. A few days later, many tribe members, after finishing their work, went to visit the newcomers. They taught them how to use the Han tribe's tools. They taught them the Han language. They helped them quickly integrate into their new life. The newcomers, faced with everyone's enthusiasm, were also very moved. After experiencing life in the Han tribe, they felt even more that their previous decision was a wise one. A few more days passed. Time flew by. It was now the 2nd month of winter. The Han tribe's wind-powered woodworking workshop was also completed. Many tribe members were freed from manual labor. Han Feng began to arrange new work for them. The 4 months of winter were only half over. The food reserves of the various tribes were also nearly depleted. The tribes with little food were facing their most difficult time. There were surely many more people like this who wanted to come to the Han tribe. For the other tribes, this was a disaster. But for Han Feng, it was a good opportunity to recruit more people. The Han tribe currently, including the slaves, had nearly 3,000 people. But Hanyang City could still accommodate at least 2,000 more. Therefore, Han Feng immediately dispatched 100 cavalrymen. They were divided into 10 teams. Each team had 10 people. Each person had 2 horses. Each team also had an Asuka eagle for reconnaissance and communication. They spread out in all directions around the Han tribe. Their mission was to find small tribes with less than 100 people. These tribes, due to their small population, were very likely to be short of food. Perhaps they could be persuaded to join, or they could use food and animal hides to trade for people. It probably wouldn't be difficult. After sending the men out, Han Feng stayed in Hanyang City to wait for news. But the construction in the Han tribe continued. The advent of the wind-powered forge hammer and would saw greatly increased the productivity of the manufacturing industry, especially the woodworking workshop. It could produce hundreds of stools every day. Therefore, this basic type of furniture was quickly distributed to every family in the Han tribe. As for applying the tung oil varnish, that was left for each family to do themselves. To save processing time, stools, square tables, louvered windows, wooden doors. These necessary pieces of furniture and home decorations were produced one after another in the woodworking workshop. Then they were distributed to every family. This changed the living standards and habits of the tribe members. The forge was also working hard to produce more tools. Iron spoons, sickles, scissors, sewing needles. As for the technique of making needles, after some improvements, Han Feng even managed to create springs. At this time, the cavalry teams sent out to find small tribes also brought back good news. The 10 teams, one after another, brought back the people they had traded for, or they directly led entire small tribes back to the Han tribe. The population of the Han tribe thus increased rapidly. In just half a month, it had increased by 300 people. But that wasn't the most important thing. These teams that were sent out to find people made some unexpected discoveries along the way. From the former location of the Black Rat tribe, traveling east for 5 days, Du Fu discovered a large river. It was as wide as 7 or 8 houses. Moreover, on the west bank of the river, there was a flat piece of land. It was even larger than Hanyang City. That land was not inhabited by any tribe. There were only a few tribes living in the forest. About a 2-day journey away, Wu Mao held a crudely drawn topographical map. He explained to Han Feng. Han Feng took the map and observed it carefully. regarding the river as wide as 7 or 8 houses that Wu Mao had just mentioned. The Han tribe stipulated that each house was 10 meters wide. 7 or 8 houses would be 70 to 80 meters. A river that wide could indeed be called a large river, based on the geographical information Han Feng had. The source of this river was very likely from the river system east of Mount Baobao. After all, the location was very close. Where there is water, there is life. Moreover, that place was near Mount Baobao. If they could occupy that place and build a defensive city, then copper smelting, water transportation, or exploiting the abundant fish resources in the river would all be very convenient. The first city of the Han tribe would soon reach its population limit. Therefore, the selection of a site for the next city had to be done in advance. That place had flatland and an abundant water source. It was very favorable for the development of the Han tribe's agriculture. From Hanyang City to the old location of the Rat tribe took a day's walk. But to get to the large river that Wu Mao mentioned, it would take another 5 days on horseback. Because the ground was covered in snow, and they had to search along the way, their speed was not fast. If they walked, it would probably take 7 or 8 days, calculated at a walking speed of 20 kilometers per day. The distance was about 150 kilometers. This distance, if a straight road could be built, with a way station in the middle to change horses, then riding at full speed, it would only take 5 or 6 hours to get there. With the current strength of the Han tribe, they could completely control that area and build a second city. The way station in the middle could also be developed into a small village. The fact that no tribe lived there was also understandable. After all, with only a water source, there would surely be many wild beasts. Moreover, the surrounding area was all plains. There were no strategic points for defense. Tribes that didn't know how to build walls would naturally not dare to settle there. It was ownerless land, and it suited the needs of the Han tribe. Then naturally, it would be occupied by the Han tribe. However, there was no need to rush now. This was not something that could be completed immediately. The biggest problem when building a new city was that the Han tribe currently did not have enough manpower. Building a city requires a lot of people. This was what the Han tribe was lacking. If they directly sent troops to capture people, they could only turn them into slaves. For the Han tribe, this was too much of a loss. It was best to find a way to win over talent without bloodshed. Han Feng quickly came up with a plan. That was to establish a permanent market there. Send a few hundred people to garrison it. As long as they could defend against the surrounding tribes, it would be fine. Then, through the market, they would recruit labor from the neighboring tribes to build the city. They would work for the Han tribe. The Han tribe would provide them with food. They would use their labor to exchange for daily necessities. These laborers would all come from tribes 2 or 3 days' journey away. When they came to work for the Han tribe, they couldn't go home every day. Therefore, they would have to live in the new city. Daily contact, eating, living, and working together with the people of the Han tribe. By the time the new city was completed, if they were allowed to join the Han tribe to live there, when they saw the city they had built with their own hands, they surely wouldn't be willing to leave. In this way, Han Feng only needed to use a small amount of goods to exchange for their labor. After the city was completed, these laborers would bring their entire families to join the Han tribe. By then, the goods he had sold them would be considered to have returned to the Han tribe. As for the consumed supplies, they were used for his own tribe members anyway. There was no loss at all. This was like building an entire city without spending a single penny. And he would even trick a large group of people into joining. Thinking of this, Han Feng couldn't help but get excited. He had taken another step on the path to building his empire. As soon as he thought a method to both build a new city and quickly recruit more people for the Han tribe, Han Feng decided to establish a permanent market in the new city. He would send a few hundred people to garrison it. He would recruit labor from the surrounding tribes to build the city. He would use food and daily necessities to exchange for labor. These laborers would eat and live together with the people of the Han tribe. Gradually, they would be assimilated. By the time the new city was completed, he would allow them to join the Han tribe to live there. When they saw the city they had built with their own hands, they would surely agree. In this way, Han Feng only needed to spend a small amount of goods. After these laborers brought their families to join the Han tribe, the goods would return to the tribe. The consumed supplies would also be used for his own tribe members. There was no loss. In the future, using this method, he could rapidly expand the Han tribe. When he had enough manpower, he could divide them into multiple teams. They could go to different places to build new cities. The population would also increase rapidly. Han Feng decided to use the remaining time of winter to prepare supplies like ox carts, saddles, pottery, white salt, wooden barrels, tools, and so on. At the same time, he sent Wu Mao's team to scout the site for the new city, to find suitable places to build villages and way stations. He also assigned new tasks to the production workshops, to mass-produce goods, to meet the needs of the Hanyang city market and for trade with the grassland tribes next year. The remaining goods would be used for investment in the new city. The commercial focus of the Han tribe was still the grasslands, because the profits there were huge. Han Feng also prepared many more types of goods. He requested the purchase of more supplies, especially sheep's wool, because the Han tribe was in great need of wool. He planned to use wool to make blankets and clothes. Then, Han Feng returned to the smelting area. He continued to research springs. This was a key technology for increasing cloth production. After successfully making the first spring, Han Feng began to research the flying shuttle loom. Its productivity could be increased several times over. In addition, he also built a spinning jenny. Productivity increased tenfold. The woodworking workshop also increased its production speed. Mu Yong proposed building another wind-powered woodworking workshop. Han Feng agreed. A month later, the cavalry teams sent to search for and trade for people brought back more than 480 people. The population of the Han tribe increased again. Wu Mao's team also finished drawing the topographical map of the East. Han Feng now had a visual understanding of the terrain there. However, building a city was a major undertaking. It required Han Feng's personal supervision. At the beginning of the 4th month of winter, Han Feng instructed Doshu, the elder, and Shaman Shu to stay and look after Hanyang City. As for Han Feng, along with Shu De, Yueteu, Lang Feng, Xiuya, and Wu Mao's cavalry team, a total of 15 people, went to the site of a new city to survey it. After 2 days of riding, they reached the large river. Han Feng used a measuring tape to survey the area. He found that the terrain here was very suitable for building a city. The land was flat. It could be used for farming. The area was vast, enough to support a large population. Han Feng planned to return to the tribe and then make a detailed plan for the new city. The scouting team continued to search for resources in the surrounding area. They discovered that in the northern mountains, there was kogon grass. It could be used as a substitute for bamboo to make many things, like mats, door curtains, and so on. In the southern mountains, there were trees that could be used for paper making. The bark and sap of the trees contain a lot of fiber. In addition, there were also catalpa trees, pear trees, locust trees, willow trees, poplar trees, pine trees, and so on. These are all useful types of wood. They also found a suitable place to build a village. It could serve as a transit station between Hanyang City and the new city. They could develop animal husbandry and services there. After the scouting team returned to the Han tribe, Han Feng received the survey information. He began to plan the construction of the new city in Hanyang City. However, spring was coming. The Han tribe had to focus on farming. The construction of the new city would begin after the spring planting was finished. In the last month of winter, the cavalry teams sent out to trade and search for people brought back another 300 people, including the previous number. This winter, the Han tribe had increased its population by 817 people. The total population reached 4,000. Spring arrived. Han Feng was 12 years old. The Han tribe was also on a path of vigorous development. Another group of people came of age, although not many, only about 100 people. Spring arrived, and the annual sacrificial ceremony was held again. But this time, it was a bit special. Not only did the members of the Han tribe participate, because of the Spring Festival, the first market fair of the year was also held. However, this year's first market fair was not for trading goods, but for the tribes that had learned how to grow paddy rice, to come and learn spring farming experience from the Han tribe. Besides learning farming experience, the major spring gathering was also moved to the Han tribe's market. The chiefs, shamans, and elders of the various tribes led their warriors and the young men and women who had just come of age. They came to set up camp on the grassy field west of Hanyang City. Most of these young men and women were visiting the Han tribe for the first time. They were all amazed by what they saw. 3 days later, the Han tribe solemnly held the sacrificial ceremony. to display the strength of the tribe. The tribe members lined up. They marched out of the west gate. They formed neat ranks outside. Then, the drums on the city wall sounded. The city gate opened. The tribe members marched out one by one. A banner was hung on the city wall. On it were written characters such as, "Honor the ancestors," "A bountiful new year." Then, a procession representing the 6 types of livestock appeared, causing a stir in the crowd. The 4 high-ranking chiefs raised the tribe's flag. They walked to the flagpole on the city wall. Han Feng led the way. He raised the flag. Then, he read a prayer to the ancestors and encouraged the tribe members. The tribe members bowed their heads in respect before the flag and the banner on the city wall. After the ceremony ended, the banner remained hanging on the city wall. It was only taken down in the evening. The tribe members lined up to enter the city. They took their children home. Then everyone went about their business. After the crowd dispersed, ox carts carrying goods arrived at the area outside the city. They began to set up their stalls. This time, there were many new items such as iron pots, iron spoons, sewing needles, and scissors. There were also wooden tables and chairs, and iron farming tools. The Han tribe demanded to trade people for metal goods. The other tribes also used people to trade. The Han tribe thus recruited another 300 people. After that, the east gate of Hanyang City opened. Cattle and horses pulled plows out to the fields. The spring planting began. Fertilizer was also spread on the fields. The area of spring cultivation for the Han tribe this year was very large. Besides last year's paddy fields, the land on the east bank of the small river had also been cleared during the winter. An additional 1,500 mu of fields were reclaimed. Han Feng arranged to plant wheat in the area on the east bank. First, he sowed half of the seeds as a test. Although he didn't know the exact method of planting wheat, Han Feng knew that he had to dig furrows and then sow the seeds. Therefore, he divided the land into several plots, a total of 5 mu, while the tribe members were enthusiastically plowing the fields. Han Feng was not idle either. He personally plowed 5 mu of land. Then he began to prepare for the development of the new city. To develop the new city, it was necessary to send a group of warriors there first, to clear out the wild beasts in the surrounding area, to build a base, and to prepare for the establishment of the market. The Han tribe currently did not have a regular army. Han Feng planned to first manufacture weapons and equip the army. A regular army, first and foremost, must have uniformity. This is reflected in the military uniforms. The Han tribe already had some hemp cloth, enough to make uniforms for over 100 people. Han Feng ordered the cloth to be dyed dark red. It was sewn into 2 layers of inner garments, an outer robe and also shoes. The army's boots were made of cowhide. The style was a low-cut black boot. The soles were made of cowhide and black ebony wood. They were carved with anti-slip patterns. With boots, there must also be armor. Han Feng decided to equip them with leather armor, because it was simple to make. The material was rawhide. The infantry armor was like a bulletproof vest. It was worn by pulling it over the head. It was fastened with buttons. The chest plate was painted yellow. It was printed with the character "For Courage." There were also 2 arm guards. The archer's armor was simpler. It was just a single layer of armor. It was fastened with a belt. The cavalry's armor was similar to the infantry's, but the skirt was longer. It was divided into 2 pieces, left and right. There was also a helmet. The helmet had a pointed top. It was round, with a visor and decorative feathers. After designing the armor, the weapons also had to be changed. The new long spear was made of steel. The spearhead was a flat, quadrangular pyramid shape. It had a socket for attaching the shaft. The feathers attached to the spear served a great purpose. They could help the user judge the force of their thrust and attract the enemy's attention. The new long spear was also equipped with a multi-purpose military shovel. The weapon of the shield bearer was also very special. The shield was made of wood. It was rectangular. The surface was slightly curved. It had a reinforcing bar to hold the shield steady. On both sides of the shield were semicircular notches, so that they could thrust their sabers out when in formation. The saber of the shield bearer was a ring pommel saber. It had a moderate thickness. The shield bearer was also equipped with a military shovel as a secondary weapon. The main weapon of the cavalry was the lance. The secondary weapon was a military shovel. Later, they would be equipped with long sabers. The long saber was a type of long-bladed saber. It was very suitable for cavalry use. The archer's weapon was still the longbow. They were also equipped with a military shovel. In the first month of spring, the Han tribe completed the spring planting and the manufacturing of weapons. Han Feng began to select soldiers from the strong young men in the tribe. He established the first regular army, with over 4,000 people. The Han tribe could only form a unit of 155 men. After the market fair of the second month of spring ended, Han Feng summoned all the adult men in the tribe to the square. He announced that he would select 155 outstanding warriors. These soldiers would receive generous treatment. They would only take orders from the chief. They would be responsible for protecting the tribe and its people, and also for expanding its territory. The selection was divided into 4 types of military branches. Each type had standardized equipment. Han Feng had 4 models with the equipment and demonstrated. This amazed the tribe members. Then, the first round of selection began. All the men were required to run 4 laps around the city wall. The first 300 to finish would advance to the next round. Han Feng used running to select soldiers, to ensure that the soldiers had good physical fitness and could bear the weight of the armor in battle. The circumference of the Hanyang city wall was 1,400 meters. For laps was nearly 6 kilometers. For primitive people, this was a great challenge, but Han Feng believed they could do it. During the selection process, Han Feng stood on the city wall and observed. After the first lap, the formation began to spread out, but no one stopped. After the second lap, some people were exhausted. They collapsed on the ground or vomited. They were taken to rest and were eliminated. After the third lap, everyone's pace slowed down, but most could still persevere. After the fourth lap, Han Feng stood at the city gate, waiting. He handed out tokens to the first 300 to finish. The first 20 were potential candidates for officer positions. The next 80 were suitable to be shield bearers. The next 120 were reserve spearmen. The remaining people trickled across the finish line. After 300 people had finished, Han Feng signaled the end of the selection round. Those who were not selected sat down on the ground, exhausted, to rest. The 300 selected men gathered in the square. They waited for the second round. This round would eliminate half of them. After a 30-minute rest, Han Feng announced that the second round was a competition. They would draw lots to choose their opponents. No weapons were allowed. Whoever knocked down their opponent would advance to the next round. Everyone drew lots. They found their opponents and lined up. Han Feng called out the names of each pair of contestants. 30 people per turn. The match began. Everyone used their strength to determine the winner. Han Feng saw a pair that was quite evenly matched. There was another pair. The skinny one was Sai Dada and the fat one was Humanshang. They fought very fiercely. Han Feng was impressed by these two. He planned to give them priority consideration when selecting people. Han Feng proposed to fight the two of them in a match. The two men, one fat, one thin, one tall, one short, created a stark contrast. Han Feng stood straight. He exuded an air of confidence and determination. Humanshang was burly. His muscles bulged. He radiated strength. Sai Dada was thin and agile. His eyes were sharp. The three of them stood in the middle of the field. Everyone around them held their breath. They waited for an exciting match. The match began. Sai Dada was the first to attack. He took advantage of his speed. He rushed towards Han Feng. He intended to use a kick to the stomach to take him down. However, Han Feng was prepared. He easily dodged Sai Dada's kick. Then he quickly counterattacked. He used a sweeping kick. He kicked Sai Dada away. At the same time, Humanshang also took the opportunity to attack from behind. But Han Feng reacted quickly. He twisted his body to dodge. Then he used a powerful shoulder charge. He knocked Humanshang down. In the end, neither Sai Dada nor Humanshang could defeat Han Feng. The two looked at each other and smiled. They expressed their admiration. Han Feng announced that both of them would advance to the next round. He also promised to teach them more techniques. The other warriors who witnessed this scene were amazed by Han Feng's martial arts skills. At the same time, they also longed to be noticed by the chief. The competition continued. Han Feng selected another young man named Shirlu. He was allowed into the next round. He was recognized by Han Feng for his calmness and endurance in the match. Finally, the quota for the army was filled. Besides the 150 winners, they were still short 2 people. Of course, Han Feng would not recruit more. His purpose in demonstrating his martial arts just now was to establish his authority. At the same time, it was also to make it easier to lead this army in the future. Next, Han Feng would teach them more techniques to turn them into true warriors. The recruitment was completed. The Han tribe returned to its normal rhythm of life. Han Feng ordered the former members of the Bien tribe to form a team of 100 people. They were to go to their old settlement to plant hemp. The Shu led another group of people to Mount Baobao to mine copper. As for iron or mining, Han Feng temporarily put it on hold, because the Han tribe didn't need to use much iron at the moment. There was no need to rush. In addition, Han Feng also sent out a merchant caravan. It was led by Du Fu. Lang Feng was his deputy. They went to the grasslands to trade. This time, the main goal was to buy animal hides, cow bones, cow tendons, and cattle. In addition, they also had to buy more sheep's wool. Du Fu and Lang Feng received their orders. They happily led the caravan and set out. Han Feng kept Du Yi behind. He prepared for him to lead a team to the new city site east of the river to establish a market. The two brothers were very happy to hear this. Especially du ecchi. He began to run around, checking the progress of goods production in the various workshops. The slaves of the Han tribe continued their construction work. It was expected that in another year, the construction projects in Hanyang City would be completed. By then, the slaves would be transferred to the new city. There was no shortage of work for them. After arranging the external affairs, Han Feng began to focus on building the army. The future of the Han tribe's army would depend on the foundation he laid. Han Feng believed that the army must be separated from the common people. Therefore, he ordered the soldiers to move. He requisitioned a warehouse to serve as a barracks. The inside of the barracks was paved with bricks. It had beds and long tables. This was convenient for daily life, and it also created conditions for learning. Han Feng planned to have these soldiers learn to read and write. In the future, they could serve as teachers for the school. Then, he urged the carpentry team and the pottery team to make teaching materials, such as blackboards, chalk, and small slates, for the soldiers to learn to write. In the second month of spring, the construction of the barracks and classrooms was completed. Through training and competition, the soldiers were divided into 4 military branches. They were organized into 4 banners. Han Feng appointed Shu De as the captain, Zhu Tu as the deputy captain, Xiuya as the quartermaster. Each military branch also had its own captain. The soldiers began professional training. Han Feng also composed the song Sons of the Great Han. He prepared to teach it to the soldiers during their cultural classes. Every day, the soldiers were trained in formation, physical fitness, tactics, and combat. The afternoon was for cultural classes. Han Feng integrated Han characters and lectures on tactics, so that the soldiers could learn tactics while learning Han characters. There was also a test on the content of the morning's training. They analyzed their weaknesses. Then the soldiers did physical training. Besides training the soldiers, Han Feng also organized a class for a group of students. He taught them how to make daily necessities and Han characters. These students included the women who were pregnant last winter and children around 10 years old. In total, there were about 200 people. Han Feng taught Han characters by writing essays, so that the students could learn how to make things. While learning characters, throughout the 3rd month of spring, Han Feng was both training the army and teaching. The merchant team led by Du Yi and Shu Da's army set out for the new city to make preparations. Du Fu's merchant caravan was also searching for tribes on the grasslands to trade with, but they discovered that the tribe from last year had all moved. Lang Feng explained that the grassland tribes would move with the seasons. They could use this pattern to find new tribes. In the 4th month, the advance party reached the construction site of the new city. They began to set up camp. The hunting parties of the surrounding tribes all noticed their actions. But because the equipment and behavior of the Han tribe were very different, they did not dare to approach. Until one day, a squad leader of the Han tribe was fetching water by the river. He met a hunting party from another tribe. The squad leader introduced the Han tribe's plan. He invited them to participate in trade and construction. The chief of that tribe was very happy with the Han tribe's offer, but he was also worried that he didn't have enough people to trade for goods. The squad leader explained that the Han tribe could trade labor for goods, and they would also provide food and white salt. When the chief heard this, he was overjoyed. He decided to go back and discuss it with the elders. After they finished their discussion, the squad leader led them back to the camp. Shirlu led them to meet Du Yi to learn the specific details about the market. Du Yi introduced the plan for building the new city and the trading conditions. The chief was very satisfied with the Han tribe's plan. He said that after he returned, he would share this information with other tribes to attract more people to participate in the construction. He also wrote a letter to Han Feng. He reported on the progress. He also suggested that Han Feng come personally to plan the specific location of a new city. Han Feng received the letter. He decided to go there himself. He planned to build a large city. It could hold about 400,000 people. The layout of a new city was designed based on the plan of Chang'an City. It was divided into a palace district, a noble district, a school, and 80 market districts. The residential area in the market district was expanded. It could accommodate more people. Han Feng hoped to encourage childbirth through policy to further increase the population. The construction of a new city will be divided into several phases. First is the construction of a market district, then the construction of the city walls and the palace. Han Feng also prepared a large number of wooden planks for molds to build the rammed earth city walls. Then, he led a convoy of carts and workers to the new city, ready to begin construction. However, at this very moment, bad news reached Hanyang City. A large army of cannibals is approaching from the north.